What is up, everybody? My name is Hector Flores, host of the Insert Name FC podcast, a member of the Belly of Sports Media Network. You can find us on all things podcasting, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast fix from, you will find us there. Also, the full video version of this episode is available on Belly Up's YouTube channel, so make sure you guys go and search Belly Up Sports on YouTube, and you will find us there, amongst other great content like High Low Sports, Corner Booth Pod, Morgan Man, a lot of great stuff over there as well. And also, if you're watching the video version, you can see that I'm wearing a sombrero. So this is the only time you're going to see me in a sombrero, because I just realized that my niece was here, so my bed's also a mess because of that. So this is the only time you're going to see me in a sombrero. So there's that. Enjoy that for what you can. But yeah, follow us on social media, Instagram, X, Facebook, LinkedIn. You'll find us there. We'll post regularly over there, especially with new episodes as well. So that's another way you can come in contact with the podcast. Now, this episode, we have Champions League. Obviously, quarterfinals are done, so we'll go ahead and recap the quarterfinals and then also preview the semifinals, which we have our good friend Moussa from Mofootball TV to come on and talk about that. And we are going into the final stretch of matches in the Power 5 leagues in Europe, amongst other leagues in Europe as well. So we're going to go ahead and look at the tables and see if there's something to follow. Obviously, congratulations to Bayern Munich, who has in fact won the Bundesliga after beating Stuttgart. So they are already champions, and we'll talk about them as we, when we get to that part. But yeah, so we're going to look at the leagues. We're also going to talk about Players of the Week, right? Because Players of the Week is always a thing. So have our Players of the Week, give you guys some games to look forward to this coming weekend, and wrap the show up with Give and Go. Give and Go, man. It is a great soccer card game, very topical. Has also other things like action cards and all that. Obviously, we can't do the action cards. And there's some challenges that involve other things that we can't just do. But we usually end the show with a topic from this card game. But yeah, Give and Go. Every card tells a story. What's yours? Give and Go is the ultimate soccer card game packed with trivia challenges and conversation starters that bring fans together. With 3 game-changing categories, it's designed to get everyone talking, laughing, and reliving their favorite footy moments. On the couch, at the pub, or wherever you go. Or wherever the game takes you. Wherever you go, give and go. So, yeah, we're going to obviously draw from this, and we'll see what's the conversation for that one. But yeah, so Champions League with Moussa, then back with me to talk about the Power 5 leagues of Europe, and then Players of the Week, games to watch, and then we'll wrap the show up with some Give and Go. So, with all that being said, man, this sombrero is really getting in the way of my headphones. So we'll go ahead and take a break and then go right into Champions League with Moussa of Mofootball TV. Let me tell you guys about Belly Up Sports. Belly Up Sports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. Belly Up Sports is the premier, not your average website. All right, guys, we have the Final Four in the Champions League, and of course, we have to bring in a special guest. Special. I don't know how many more specials I can give. Guest, friend of the show, Moussa from Mofootball TV. It's always a pleasure to have you on, man. How you been, man? How's it been? How's the coaching job going?
Yeah, same old same. Soccer, work. Soccer, work.
All in that order.
Yes.
But obviously, quarterfinals are done. If you had a phrase, if you could best sum up the quarterfinals of this Champions League, what would the phrase be?
Olise?
Yeah, no, that's I know.
Yes.
And we'll definitely save that one for last when it comes to the quarterfinals. But we'll kick things off with the first quarterfinal. That is Atletico Madrid beating Barcelona 3-2. First leg was a 2-0 victory for Atletico Madrid. Second leg was a 2-1 win for Barcelona, but obviously close but no cigar. And I think the question now has been discussed, right? Like, Barcelona, the high line, right? The high line is always what you talk when you think about Barcelona. Some people say it's great for the league, but just doesn't correlate with tournament football. Do you feel like that is a fair thing to say, or the high line has its purpose, but when you get to this level of the game, this is where the teams that can expose you can do it. Last year, obviously, Inter Milan exposed them through that high line and arguably probably one of the best matches of that year. And now you have a team that you have faced now has eliminated you now in two different competitions. Eliminated them in the Copa del Rey, now eliminated them in the Champions League. Um, yeah, like what is it to say about the high line? Like, is it really the high line's fault, or what's missing
No,
here?
I think it probably has to do with Atletico sort of have the experience. It's the same coach, and they're a more defensive team. And as we all know, even though everybody talks about the offense, most of the time defense wins you championship. And playing the high line, right? So once they pass Barcelona's strongest, we'll say, offense, then after that it's kind of subdue on the defense side. So pretty much what they were had to do is just lock down, two or three players, and we all know who they are. And then after that, as Simeone, the boring tactical genius he is, he showed that the first time was not a fluke.
No, yeah, I think people say a lot of things about Diego Simeone. I'm not because I'm terrified of him, but I think
Who is it?
there's a reason why he's still with Atletico Madrid. I don't necessarily think that. I mean, obviously, Atletico Madrid is still a very big job. It's a prestigious job, and it has a lot of history overall, not just in La Liga, but in many of these competitions as well. So I think that Diego Simeone. I mean, there's a reason why he's been here. I mean,
Yeah.
how many managers have gone through Barcelona? How many managers have gone through Real Madrid? And you have Diego Simeone, who I'll be honest with you, has put Atletico Madrid in places where they haven't seen in quite some time. Obviously, they've been to the final, actually twice have been to the final. Obviously, falling short, unfortunately, playing their cross-city rivals. But what is it about this Atletico Madrid team that maybe not the flashiest of teams, but is just, I guess, get your lunch pails ready. They're coming in and getting ready to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just pretty much the way he put together. They all know the philosophy of what he's about, right? So 80 players that go to Atletico know the assignment from the very beginning, and everything starts with him. So that's why defensively, one of the few Spanish teams I pretty much can tell that is strong defensively compared to the others.
Hmm.
That's why they can kind of match up with the rest of Europe. And what they pretty much showed is that they were ready for Barcelona. And unless Lamine Yamal does his magic things, there's still a lot of question mark on what Barcelona play out, how young they are as well. So it definitely shows the difference from last year and this year, where clearly they won't be making to another final.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, Barcelona still very much have a favorable position right now on the league table,
Yes.
barring any craziness that happens. But they are more than likely looking to be lifting the La Liga title for this season. But Atletico Madrid uh, obviously we're recording this before their final against Real Sociedad, but obviously are in the Copa del Rey final and are now one tournament one competition spot away from a Champions League final. Um, obviously the big story for Atletico Madrid right now. This is going to be the final year with Antoine Griezmann. Obviously, at the end of the season, he will be hopefully playing with France in the United States in the World Cup, and then obviously going into his uh, new club in Orlando, which maybe not looking ideal right now, but still, like that's right now that's the highlight right now for Orlando City fans is that they get themselves a special talisman in Antoine Griezmann. But obviously, I'm not saying that that's the reason why Atletico is playing harder than ever. I think they're playing very much what Atletico Madrid is known for. But how big is it for Atletico Madrid that they are in, and I would say two really big competitions. Hopefully, by the time this episode drops, we will know now whether or not they are lifting a Copa del Rey.
Yes, well, so they're still in the running for two trophies and maybe the league. Um, so it pretty much is testament of not many people talk about Atletico unless, they're close to winning La Liga, which they're one of the few teams that have taken it away from either Real or Barcelona. So I think it's pretty much a testament of how they've built, and they've, as you can see, their revolving door is not as big as all of the other big teams we're talking about. Like Griezmann's been there forever, if we can think about it. All of those guys have been there with him, and I think that's what the most impressive is in today's world, having the same coach, the same philosophy, and he's still able to perform well enough to find himself in the Champions League with four other teams. So I don't watch him every day, but the times that I've watched him play is like you pretty much they know their assignment. And every player, doesn't matter if it's Griezmann or others that are bigger than the team, unless it's Simeone.
It's funny you say that, and I just now more and more I think like how perfect of the sign. As much as I don't want to say it, but how perfect of a signing Lookman is now to this Atletico Madrid side. I think you talk about how sturdy they are defensively, and I mean when you talk about Barcelona, especially with that high line, it's all about well timed runs
Right.
and exposing them on those well timed runs. I mean. Lookman has done it with Atalanta. You're talking about talk about physicality. You're talking about Serie A, right?
Right.
And this guy has proven that he can do it over than the Serie A. I believe he was rated like I think was the top player in Nigeria
Yeah,
last
well,
year.
he's also
Or
won
was
the
he African
African
player?
Ballon d'Or too.
Yeah, that's as well. So
Yeah.
I mean, he got his next big step right now. He's with Atletico Madrid, and I think honestly, a match made in heaven for what he brings for Diego Simeone. And I think
Yeah.
feel like he's a very big contributing factor as to why Atletico Madrid has been looking so great right now in this second half of the season.
Yeah, and when we heard he was moving there, we were like, what in the heck are you doing first? Because he was more of an offensive player, like minded, right? So we were like, why would he go to somewhere where it's more defensive completely? But it looks like that was, like you said, perfect match where solid already in defense. So now it actually gives him more freedom to play like he wants to play because he knows he does not have to worry about going back in defense.
Hmm.
And how dangerous can you be when you have an offensive player that knows exactly that he does not have to come back because they got it.
Yeah,
And
and I
he
mean,
proved it.
big thing for me is just knowing how to time his runs, and I think Lookman is really good at that. Obviously, he's shown it a few times against Barcelona now that he just knows how to he knows how to time his runs. Kind of wish a certain Frenchman for Real Madrid would be able to figure that out. But
Hey, 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 hey.
um, also a certain Brazilian that would also kind of want to figure that out as well.
Or a certain
Uh,
British or a certain.
Basically, a whole front,
Yes.
a whole Real Madrid front that I wish could figure that out. Especially with the pace that those guys have. But yeah, Atletico Madrid moves on. I think. What do you think when if you're a club that's about to face off against Atletico Madrid? I think most people that if they don't follow La Liga or they don't really know much about any of the teams besides Real Madrid and Barcelona, um, this isn't a team to overlook. And I think
No.
you're talking about tournament competitions. This team is built for tournament competitions. So if you're that team that now is looking at Atletico Madrid across the other side, what what are they getting themselves into when they're going up against a team like Atletico Madrid?
I think probably by now Europe knows that they're not your typical La Liga team, right? So yes, they do have a little bit of the flair, but they're more defensive, which we would expect it from the British teams. But now they added more like Lookman. So I think most teams know because Simeone has been there forever, so they know what to expect. And maybe that's why Barcelona underestimated them, maybe. But also, all of us that have watched them for long enough, you can tell that even though everybody talks about Barcelona and Real winning La Liga, guess who's in between those two teams when, if those two teams are not winning it, guess who's winning it? So they're not as flashy. They don't make that much noise, but when they're playing, you know what to expect. Um, and they're not your typical La Liga team because you see who they're beating fairly easily, almost.
Yeah, and I think also those years that Atletico Madrid does win La Liga, it's usually when Barcelona ships off a very important player to, at least once upon a time, was a very important player to them, i.e. David Villa and Luis Suarez. So
Look at
usually
that.
that usually seems to be the recipe for Atletico Madrid. So I mean, who knows? Robert Lewandowski, maybe he goes to maybe he goes to Atletico.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's closer to retirement. If he's not coming to the US, I don't even, yes, I don't think he's going to Saudi. So,
Yeah, probably more than likely.
yeah.
But moving on to the next one, and that is of course your PSG taking it to Liverpool 4-0 on aggregate, both legs being 2-0 victories for PSG. A little bit quiet this season right now for at least if you're not following Ligue 1 or you're not following. I mean, I know it's been not as crazy of a year that PSG is still solid year, obviously on top of Ligue 1 as they're expected to be, and all I think obviously on pace for a treble also I believe. Um,
Yes.
so I mean, and another familiar thing with you guys, which is now that you have Liverpool's number apparently in Champions League knockout matches. Uh, what is it about this year that just is this year just different for PSG, or is it just kind of this is now the new standard under Luis Enrique?
No, well, I think at the beginning, this kind of started slow. You saw that Dembele was injured, then Doué was injured, then the goalkeeper situations keep on fluctuating left and right. So I think he's just had not been able to pick up from last year to run with it now. And also they've lost quite a few games, against Monaco, some of the big ones. So I think it has not been the staple win from last year. So people kind of tamper down a little bit. Um, but I think that's the time of the year where clearly you saw that they outbeat Liverpool. They have what every EPL team number at this moment. What I'm enjoying is they started to kind of pull like the Real Madrid type of things where Champions League is expected, and as they make it to the rounds, they get stronger and stronger and stronger until it's time to cash in. And clearly, we saw what Dembele just did to Liverpool.
It's funny. I thought it was kind of funny how I believe PSG also was still in that playoff round, right? They didn't finish in the top
Nope.
eight,
Yes.
and I like me and Edward were talking about it as like they're about to go play against another Ligue 1 team.
Mhm.
And what we remember from last year, yeah, they went into play. I mean, barely made it, but still made it to the play-in round, and then beat the brakes out of Lille, and then they go on the run that they end up doing, which, we're just outclassing everybody, including what was said to be a very defensive Inter Milan team, and just it was
Old.
literally, yeah, that probably was men amongst boys, which was
Yeah.
pretty much what it was, but. Um, and of course, I always me and I were the one thing we always love is Desiree Dewey becoming the second youngest goal scorer in the Champions League final history. Only to then, little minutes before that game's about to end, another guy comes in and then he becomes the second youngest goal scorer in Champions League history. This team is very dangerous. They're very lethal, and I mean on top of that, Luis Enrique, who is not afraid to use the youth, and
Mhm.
you know, there's confidence, man. You're beating Liverpool, and I think with that kind of momentum what is it for that team that has to go against PSG? Like, momentum is clearly on their side. I don't think I've ever felt like PSG was ever out of it, in any of their matches. So at least in the knockout rounds, uh, what is it to be, what is it to be expected if you're going to go up against this PSG team?
I guess probably the question is what is unexpected? Um, because like you mentioned, right, the whole front at first is dangerous enough to play. So especially when someone's injured, they're able to bring someone off the bench, a 19-year-old, 18, 17, and they're still able to play their part. So I don't know. I think probably the biggest part is how can they contain the high press?
Hmm.
Because Kaczynski and I mean, those guys are literally running for a full 90 minutes pressure, 90 minutes. I sometimes get tired watching them, but I think it's mostly the high press and how well can they contain Dembele first, and how can the rest of the team pretty much can help mitigate some of the push, because they will get at least 10 to 15 shots on target.
Hmm.
So who is going to score those goals? Who knows? Um, I would have never expected that Dembele was going to score those 2 goals that he did against Liverpool last. But then before that, it was Doué, and then it was Kaczynski. That's just he pulls in goals out of his derriere like there's no other.
Yeah, the team's very lethal and a very quiet team, but that core is still there.
Yeah,
And I mean, once again, you got Luis Enrique, who could definitely be making a very strong bid as is probably this era's best coach right now.
yeah, he's doing his thing. And the fun part is everybody has talked about PSG's splashing money like crazy. But if you think about it, look at the formation of the team. That's not splashing money.
Uh,
It's
it's
youth.
no more the days of getting Edson Cavani and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Even though as fun as those guys were when they were with PSG, it's no more the days. And I think everything that they have done, like to be honest, their splashiest signing from last year was Kvaratskhelia.
Yeah. And even though he killed it, but and that's the part I think PSG may have found a way to tap into the French academy system in general to be able to bring those youth players that will then become um, national team players. And yes, he took from Lille and Douai and all that already were doing their thing in Ligue 1. But the beauty of having to be able to keep these young guys in Paris, in France, it's almost hard to see.
No, yeah, especially right now where it seems like everybody's trying to get themselves a French player.
Yeah.
So I mean, and, I think obviously that also goes into the whole thing of trying to keep your league with more homegrown players and developing more homegrown players and eventually have them be staples of your club. Obviously, as now we're still going with the massive arms race that is European football,
Yeah.
but we'll see how all that progresses. But yeah, PSG moves on. I mean, but you look at Liverpool. I mean, you know, won the Premier League in Arne Slot's first year. Some people are wondering, was that just because he was inherited a great roster already, and now this go around, yeah, guys have come in. I mean, Edekita, I think that's a massive loss, but
Yes.
still, a lot of guys that were brought into this team, a lot of hype was given to him, and kind of falling short. I mean, Verts still, I don't know if I'm really getting the Verts that we saw from Bayer Leverkusen. Frimpong, I haven't heard anybody really mention Frimpong as of recently. Um, Isak, you know, and then of course on top of that, you have the drama that's been going on with Liverpool and Mohamed Salah as well, as he's obviously this is going to be his
He's out.
last
Yeah.
year. He's out. He's going to be gone. Curious to see what happens to him after this, but you know, uh, if you're a Liverpool, for Liverpool fans, I mean, where does this club go? They're not really in any of the competitions at this point.
Well, there's someone needs to get fired a long time ago. That's one. Spent a ton of money, and yes, the way he won that, the EPL is because he was handing over a great team, and I think all the turmoils, right, all of these internal issues, we all know impact players, and then you are literally fighting with arguably the most famous soccer player in Liverpool. You got Steven Gerrard and all that, but Salah is like right there at their table with them.
Oh yeah,
And for his final year, which I guess at first was not supposed to be, but to kind of close the chapter like that, I think kind of disturbed the whole flow of Liverpool just in general. You don't go from champion to this bad this quickly, and then say, you know what, Salah, we'll suspend you, we'll bench you, you go play with the young boys, and like there's a lot for a coach that's been there 2 years. Um, so I think, and I'm surprised he still has a job to begin with. I don't follow them much, but I saw the scores, and the way they're playing, other club would have let him go months ago. And maybe Champions League now is the justification to say
I mean, there's a
what's
lot of
next.
Liverpool fans that would love for Xabi Alonso to take over this team, but
Yeah, I don't know if he. Do
I
you
don't know if
think
he's the
he?
guy. I
Yeah,
don't know if he
but
is
do you
the.
think he's like this early? He just got let go.
I mean, I will say if you want a guy that has a lot of experience with Florian Wirtz and Frimpong, I mean that is probably
Yeah,
the guy that can get the best out of them. But and I think Liverpool's in an interesting situation where they're going to move on from a lot of players.
yeah,
Where maybe Xabi Alonso. And I don't. The thing is with Liverpool, that's a little bit different versus Real Madrid. And I mean, they're still very big clubs. I just never seen Liverpool as like uh as egotistical as a locker room would be for Real Madrid. So I
true.
think it's still somewhat of crazy enough. As big as they are, they're still very humble, very working class. Everything that everybody says about the Scousers and all that.
Oh, it
But
is Liverpool. Yes.
and so I think if there was a team that was very more similar to Bayer Leverkusen, I feel like it would be Liverpool. I mean, and
Yeah,
then I think Xabi Alonso, the club will be more respectful to him as way more respectful as they were than Real Madrid was to Xabi Alonso. I think the players would be a little bit more. I think guys that will come in, and I mean once again, you already have guys like Florian Wirtz and Frimpong, and I mean Edekite will also have some familiarity with him, even though he never has been in a locker room with
yeah,
him, but has been on the other side of him. And I think like I don't know, there's just a certain humbleness that comes with Liverpool that I think Xabi Alonso could in fact work.
yeah. And I was surprised that he even went to Real because a lot of the coaches that they've had are like big character coaches, and they have huge ego, and they have you know a portfolio that is so big that there's no players, even the biggest one in the world, could say anything or go sideline. And I think maybe they were a little too equal to him compared to, you know, when they had the Zidane, and, no one will talk down to Zidane if he's your coach.
Yeah, no, it's
So,
unfortunate. I thought that maybe Xabi Alonso will hold some pedigree, but clearly I was wrong. I still feel like he was the right choice for Real Madrid. But
they needed
obviously,
someone older and a little bit of that.
yeah,
Oh,
I think Jose made a good point. I think maybe like a few years down the road, where once he's built more credibility for himself, maybe he can go. And obviously, generations will have changed at that point to where
yes.
his name is probably a little holds more regard when he steps into that locker room. Um, but also, Real Madrid has like a very weird history when it comes to more tactically minded managers.
Right.
When I think of like how things didn't pan out with Lopetegui, how things didn't pan out well with Rafa Benitez, even though I was never a fan of that manager. But
Hey, he got me trophies, so I'm not too bad at him.
I mean, I hope he's able to win you some trophies. But I mean, like similar to those guys, like a Rafa Benitez, like a Lopetegui. I think that kind of where Xabi Alonso kind of falls under, where they're more tactical minded first. But the reality is that you have to also manage the egos, the players as well. And I
Yeah.
don't think, and that was where he kind of was hoping that, oh, I'm gonna have these strict rules and strict fines, and if you guys don't follow, you'll get in line. And unfortunately, none of them got in line.
No,
So that was the big gripe for him. But two flips of the coin. Maybe if Arne Slot does get sacked, which
no,
could
it's
happen.
it's it's a when, not the
Oh,
if.
when? Well,
Yeah, it's a when.
best believe Xabi Alonso is probably the first name on that list.
Yeah.
For Liverpool. But all right, the next matchup: Arsenal beating Sporting 1-0.
Meh.
Where's the ref? Is there red flags right now? If you first of all, you want to think about. I've said it plenty of times now. Arsenal, it's either you get off the pot or it's gonna be there's gonna be a conversation for Arteta.
Yeah. Hmm.
There's gonna be a conversation, and it's not looking like it's gonna be good for him. All you have left now is the Premier League and this. I don't I'm not taking anything jabs at Sporting. I think obviously Sporting has a very rich history as a club. Obviously, maybe not Champions League history, but still has a lot of history as a club. Obviously, this is the club where Cristiano Ronaldo started his career and all those things. But you know, and also Arsenal and Sporting probably has like a lot of have played faced off against each other on many occasions. Europa League is more what I think about. But like, if Arsenal wanted to get the fans to really believe in them, you needed to come out more than just a 1-0 showing. And I
Uh,
understand that this is Arsenal's identity, right? They have the back line that they have. They're gonna beat you on set pieces, but I mean, you know, if they were gonna perform, Bukayo Saka was number 25 on the FS1's most influential players list. So I mean, like
mm,
this was just to me like yes, you moved on, right? Like that's what everyone keeps saying. You win and move on. You win and move on. But sometimes it does help how you win.
yeah.
So with Arsenal right now, 1-0 with Sporting Kansas City, which was on the first leg. Second leg was a 0-0. Like this is the team that went undefeated in the Champions League in the group round. Still currently undefeated, by the way. Um, would you have even believed me if I just said that they were still undefeated? Just by looking at how they play.
Well, more defensive. I wouldn't be too surprised. They only score on corner kicks, so
Which I mean,
yeah.
hey, if that's your identity, that's your identity. But you are gonna need to at some point become multifaceted when it comes to scoring. But
But I think for them, like you mentioned, 1-0, especially when you're coming into like the semifinals of the Champions League, you have to have that signature win that lets everybody know that's what's up.
mhm.
And at this moment, especially like their EPL season is kind of, City is kind of knocking at their door.
Also
That
before,
that may
well,
have been
by the time this episode drops, we'll know the result of that Man City Arsenal match. Which, by the way,
right.
Man City does have a few matches in hand as well, because I
One
believe.
game in hand after, yeah. So, and I think that they should have probably gone all out on this one to kind of temper down a little bit of the discussions that's happening at home of possibly bottling the season again. And now they're kind of going into the semifinals against teams that are red hot, even in their um, domestic leagues. But yet you're coming in with a one win and then a lot of questions at home, which does not help.
It doesn't. I think that there needs to be some fire. I mean, I get it that maybe you were trying not to like go full out on this. You had the one goal advantage, and obviously, Man City's coming up, and you're hoping to, you need to separate yourself from Man City. That's a must win. That's not even a draw. It's win or nothing, because the balling accusations are just coming in full front. I mean, coming off of two disappointing Premier League results, and now having to go against a team that took your first trophy away, which was the Carabao Cup, and you get eliminated against Southampton in the FA Cup, and now you're here where potentially you could have another season where you don't have a trophy, and Arteta could very be much out the door if that result stays like that.
Yeah, and the funny part when they go in, eh, all of their main players were injured during the international break, just for them to come back and lose. Like
Mm-hmm.
all of the other teams that we're talking about are having a run in their league. They're winning games and they're expecting to perform well. Arsenal is maybe the only one that's like has that question mark going in the tournament. And the last thing you need is all this discussion of possibly not making it. Like they made a Manchester City fan famous with his battle celebration of drinking. Like in their brain, I don't think that's the best situation to go into a semifinals of a Champions League.
Definitely, definitely, especially. So if you're paired up with Arsenal, that's the team you got to face off against. How confident or how confident is that team going to be right now, knowing that that's who they have to go against? Is the team that just is just good for set pieces?
Well, then after that, the question is who they play against, and will they have even the opportunity to have that many set pieces and corner kicks,
Hmm.
right? So if they're not giving you corner kicks, how are you going to score?
Exactly.
If they don't give you set pieces, how are you going to score? And so I guess that will be the biggest question. Maybe the EPL has not gotten their numbers just yet, but everyone else is watching. And I forgot who they were going to be against, but Atletico and Arsenal will be a very fun game to watch.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one right a little bit before I just got
Well,
ripped.
snooze face, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, well, now I got to rip the Band-Aid off this one because this is
Oops.
the highest scoring matchup, which is Bayern Munich eliminating Real Madrid 6-4 on aggregate. First leg was a 2-1 win in the Bernabeu. Uh, Also, Harry Kane's return. Obviously, he comes off of an injury, scores a goal in the second half, and it's just Harry Kane is very much back. Is what and if you're an England fan, you're happy to see that, right? You're happy to see your guy, and I mean, people are throwing out potential Ballon d'Or candidate on Harry Kane. People are saying, don't shoot the messenger. Uh, I think depending on how this World Cup goes, maybe that will improve Harry Kane's chances. But I mean, Bayern Munich, strongest team probably right now, still active in the Champions League. Probably should be the heavy favorites. I know Arsenal was technically according to Vegas odds, but I think as far as like complete team, Bayern Munich has has all the checks, right? Checks all the boxes when it comes to a complete team. Also, that 4-3 game against that second leg for Real Madrid, I think great second leg, entertaining if you're not invested in any way in this match, but um, I can see kind of similar to last year's Inter Milan and Barcelona, right? We got to see two teams go back and forth. I enjoyed it thoroughly as someone that
Right.
wasn't involved with, didn't really care who was going to come out of there. And I'm guessing Real Madrid fighting for their lives, knowing that if they don't win this, they're not going to the semifinal. I think this is where the magic of Real Madrid and Champions League just probably ran out into the point where you just don't have the team. That's kind of what it
Right.
came down to. You just don't have the team. It doesn't like people are going to try to pin this on Arbeloa. I don't know if it's really on him. Yes, the Camavinga substitution maybe could have been. I get why people are criticizing it, but at the same time, like Camavinga is still a quality player, and as someone that knows he's out the door, he still wants to show people like, hey, I'm still a very good player, and I can still play the sixth role or in the midfield as well as anybody else could. So he still has to build himself up to make sure. So I don't think that necessarily he was self sabotaging himself in any way. Because one, that's a dumb thing to do, but people
Yeah.
believe what they want to believe. But
That was an
obvious
awful yellow, but that was that was a
reckless.
dumb yellow.
I mean, Rudiger's yellow was a lot more dumber, which was him yelling at the referee. But
Yeah, it's pretty girl. That's
yeah,
normal.
yeah. But yeah, no, this was Bayern Munich. Obviously, just they should have won this one. They were clearly the better team. There was no question marks around Bayern Munich. There's no concerns with Bayern Munich. The team just seems to be all sunshines and rainbows. Meanwhile, Real Madrid.
But Neuer, though, that free kick of that goal, I mean, that was some questionable old goalkeeper.
That as well, or we can also credit that Arda just smashed it right.
He smashed it, but remember, right? The rule, goalkeeper, if you touched it,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're big, right? Like that's the backup keeper has done very well filling in for Manuel Neuer. Is this where, it's kind of an interesting question, right? Because you remember not that long ago when Real Madrid, Lunin took over because Thibaut Courtois was out for a majority of
yeah,
the year. And many people had the question of, shouldn't Lunin be the keeper for the final? If he got this team all the way to the Champions League final, shouldn't he be
yep.
able to see it through? Um, I get it's Manuel Neuer, right? He's gonna go down as one of the greatest keepers of all time. But like your big has put in the work, right? That he's been showing up. He's big pressure for him, right? He has to cover for arguably probably Bayern Munich's greatest keeper besides Oliver Kahn.
Yep.
And so, like, I mean, for him, like, do you feel like he should have been here at this moment against Real Madrid, or you have to give it to Manuel Neuer?
No, no. If he took the team all the way there, you have to continue with the goalkeeper. Um, that's what PSG did. Donnarumma was not the one starting in Ligue 1. It was Chevalier, but Donnarumma was doing well during the Champions League, so he continued being the goalkeeper. So I think if your goalkeeper have taken you there or a player have taken you there, you might as well just keep riding it because that's the reward that you're supposed to do, right? You perform well, you have your starting spot. If they change it, that's where then the question is that the coach might be in trouble if Neuer does not perform well and then they're eliminated. You know whose head's going to fall, and it's not the backup goalkeeper.
Yeah, and I think obviously, like I said, besides goalkeeper, Bayern Munich is very strong, is very loaded.
Yeah.
Obviously
Well,
we made a lot we made a lot of jokes about Vincent Company of, you know, it's an impressive feat to get a team relegated. Well, obviously it's not his fault. It just
right.
Burnley is what they are, and it's the Premier League. But for someone to be in a team that just got relegated to the Championship and then gets offered the Bayern Munich job is still, to me, one of the most funniest things ever. Just because it's legitimately the saying of failing upwards. But I
Oh,
mean,
well, hey,
it is Vincent Company. Speaking of guys that his name just is garnered with respect. It's Vincent Company. He's
yeah,
not afraid to yell at you. We've all seen the clip. He is one of those guys that like, I think just him still being a player and not that far away from his time playing.
mm,
He's able to relate to these guys. And Bayern Munich, I mean, he was given the keys to a Ferrari, right? Like, or
yeah.
I guess a Volkswagen, if you want to look at it like
Oh,
that.
yeah, Beamer or whichever you want. Yes,
Yeah, so I mean, he's been given the keys to a very good, sturdy machine that is Bayern Munich, and you know, added some really good pieces. Michael Olise, I mean, more and more is just
I'm
looking like
still, yeah.
biggest steal of all time.
Hmm.
And also Crystal Palace, man, what are they doing? Like, what are they doing to be able to get the best out of these guys and then collect a big paycheck from it? But
Scouting.
great scouting. But yeah, Bayern Munich. You can say all the nice things you want to say about Bayern Munich. But obviously, I'm a Madrid, so you want to guys hear me complain about Real
Yeah.
Madrid, and this is what I'm gonna give it to y'all. Look, was it a valiant effort? Sure. Did I? I had so many doubts about this team. I didn't think they were gonna be able to beat Man City, but they did it. Speaking of Donnarumma, he just flat out had dodo moments, and then that's kind of where Real Madrid exploited. But
That's what he gets.
yeah. But Bayern Munich, and I like I said, you can only rely on Champions League magic as much as you want, but this team clearly has a lot of issues, and of course, of all people to exploit that is Thierry Henry to point out that my biggest gripe that I've said for the longest, even though I do love Mbappe and I do enjoy how he plays, he's just not a nine. He's just
Hmm.
not, at least for what Real Madrid does, and people have heard me say it to the point of ad nauseum. If Mbappe is really gonna work out for Real Madrid, like I mean, he doesn't have to be that just stay up top all time nine. Like, one of the best examples, and if I was Mbappe, I would just be watching all of Karim Benzema's film. All that Karim
Yeah.
Benzema was doing, because he wasn't a traditional nine either. Like,
Nope.
he was moving around the field, like he was, and also it goes down to also guys needing to just learn, like, not even learn. I'm not gonna say stick to their role, but just be fluid. And I think the part of it was just Kylian Mbappe and Vinny just being hard headed of, okay, Mbappe's coming to the left, let me move in a little more centered. It just never happened. Vinny just wanted to keep being on the left side. And there you had those weird moments where you had both Vinny and Mbappe on the left and just nobody down center, where this is kind of where you need that Joselu type player. And unfortunately, Real Madrid really never had it. Bellingham probably could have been that guy, but I don't know what happened to him this season. He's just, I don't even really have words to
He
describe
does
him.
not have a big enough ego to speak for himself. And and I like the shout out that you mentioned, Benzema. That's probably why Ronaldo was able to perform so well, is because Benzema knew that one. I saw almost Benzema in Vinicius, the same situation, right? Where Benzema, Vinicius are here at Real. Ronaldo comes in. Benzema is like, I know I'm supposed to be the lead striker, but since Ronaldo's here, I'm gonna stay back and I'm gonna have more assists than I ever had in my life. Which where then Ronaldo was able to shine, but Vinicius was not sort of able to do the same thing for Mbappe, and that's where the issue, I guess, arises, like you mentioned, right? Now you have five players that want to be the man and leading the entire club. When previously you knew who was the talisman, and then even though they were huge on their own, they knew who was the guy. Now they're still fighting for that right now at Real.
Yeah, and I think obviously Benzema leaves to go to Al Ittihad, and of course that year where you bring in Jude Bellingham, you have this unique formation that they're kind of using, right? They have like the 4-4-2 diamond, right, where you have kind of, but also when they're on the attack, I think it becomes like a 4-3-3. Bellingham becomes kind of that center forward, like a false nine,
Right.
and that was the reason why he had his year, right? The year where he scored all those goals was because he was the guy up top. Vinny and Rodrigo were obviously doing their thing on the wings, and then obviously you bring in Joselu in the second half, and he becomes that central nine that you just got to put it up there, and he'll poke it in for you. But yeah, like ever since then, you add Mbappe because why wouldn't you go get, why wouldn't you bring in Mbappe? And it just hasn't worked out since. And obviously now, and it's Real Madrid because they're not just gonna let things slide, right? Like at some point they're gonna be frustrated. Now you're going into another year where you don't have trophies, 2 years without a trophy,
Mm.
which obviously if you're Real Madrid, that's just it. 1 year without a trophy is already unacceptable. To go back to back years with no trophies, that is just unheard
Look,
of. And obviously the rumor is that after this match, Fiorentino Perez goes to the locker room. As he's walking, he sees Arda Güler. He tells him to not go into the locker room, to stay out of the locker room. And apparently, he goes into the locker room and just lets everybody know that essentially none of their jobs are safe. That this is not acceptable. This is not on par. If you had any dignity left in you, you finished La Liga strong. And this is what comes with Real Madrid. I think at the end
yeah.
of the day, if you're not living up to what they're wanting, they can easily go get another guy. Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast here to tell you guys about Canada Dips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canada Dip CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BELLYUP20 at CanadipCBD.com. Once again, BELLYUP20 at CanadipCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canadips for being a great partner of Belly Up Sports.
Yep.
And that,
Easily.
so Mbappe, you don't want to play 9? Fine, we'll go put a bag out there for Erling Haaland. Is essentially
Yeah.
what Perez is telling him. You
Yeah,
know,
well, Holland has pretty much said it that, you know, Real is a target of his, in the future. So I'm sure it won't take that much convincing.
it won't. And I mean, the guy actually knows how to play the 9 spot, so that's already a big one up. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how the summer transpires. I think obviously Rodrigo's injury, you're not gonna be able to move on from him. He's staying put just because of the injury itself. He's not gonna be back. Maybe not till like December.
Right.
So the question is really gonna be Vinny or Mbappe.
Well, if one of them wins the World Cup, they're not going anywhere because, they're going to milk that cow until
Hmm.
it's dry.
But yeah, I really, unfortunately, now more so than ever, I think it's going to come down between those two. I think Jude might be out the door as well. Camavinga is clearly out the door.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting to see how the trimming of the fat's gonna go with Real Madrid, and then who's the manager they bring in. Obviously, the rumors are now Jurgen Klopp is the name that they're looking at. Didier Deschamps is another name that's being looked at now, because obviously he's stepping down from the French. My question is really: is Real Madrid willing to wait till the end of the World Cup to have Deschamps in here? That's
Well,
kind of my real question. And
well,
then,
he's the guy that can manage he or she goes.
especially with all the Frenchmen that are on that team,
Yeah.
but and then obviously the other rumor, which I think is hilarious, is I don't know who the hell brought this news up, but Mauricio Pochettino is also in the conversation for the Real Madrid role, which yeah, that's like not the guy that can handle a locker room full of egos. And for the people that are gonna say Tottenham,
No.
Heung-min Son and Harry Kane are probably like the least egotistical people
Yeah.
that are stars. Like very likable dudes. I don't think that, especially when you're thinking about like high caliber players, right? So I don't necessarily like think you can use Tottenham as an example. I mean, we all saw Pochettino's time with PSG. The team that probably many people were saying, oh, they're gonna win Champions League right away, and well, we know how that all went down. But
Yes, we know.
so I don't really. So it's gonna be interesting what happens with Real Madrid. I think there's gonna be a lot of players moving on. Obviously, Carvajal is finally gonna be out the door. Camavinga looks more than likely he will not be with the club anymore. And apparently, Florentino Perez really likes Arda Güler. So
Well, he's young. And he has shown what he's capable of. So
I mean, that game was definitely not on him.
yeah,
So it definitely wasn't on Arda Güler, but yeah, no, it was interesting. But at the end of the day, I think Bayern Munich should be the heavy favorite, especially now going
yeah,
into the semifinals. Probably the heavy favorite to win the Champions League. They have a good team. They're strong. Maybe they have some. There's obviously they're not perfect. None of
yeah.
these teams are perfect. But if you're looking at a team to put your money on to win the Champions League, it's probably Bayern Munich. But we'll see what happens, man, because we'll go right into the semifinals, and the first semifinal matchup, which it feels like it's going to be a battle of the heavyweights. It is Luis Enrique's PSG taking on Vincent Kompany's Bayern Munich, playing April 28th and May 5th. Cinco de Mayo could be deciding who's going to
Hey,
the Champions League final. Um, I mean, like I said, Bayern Munich looks to be the heavy favorites. Are probably one of the stronger teams in that's left now. But PSG on the other side, also a very strong team. And I think when it comes down to it, like, does it go to who's just going to be the better tactician when it comes to manager, or what? How do you feel about this matchup? Do you wish this was
well,
the final?
yes, and I think that's the time where I think it's probably where coach's mind and the tactic from the coaches will determine how the game goes. Because clearly, we all know the blueprints of each of the teams and how they play. I think that's where the coaches earn their paychecks.
Mm-hmm.
And at this moment, it's going to be quite interesting because Company, even though he's leading Bayern and he has coached for a little bit, he's still new to being a head coach, a high level. And Champions League is a whole nother beast altogether. So I'm interested to see they beat Real, yes, and there were still a few questionable things here and there. But I don't think they faced the PSG and this type of high pressure just yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah. I think Bayern Munich's backline is going to be very much tested against this high press, just because of who's in the back line. I mean, Obecampio, Lime. You talk about Conrad Leimer. I mean, this guy really just lives up front from what it looks like in Bayern Munich. I mean, this he's going to be tasked to have to go 1v1 with some of these wingers at PSG, and he might not be able to go up as much as he would like to, because that counterattack is going to be I mean,
exposed,
if
yeah.
you watch that Inter Milan game, you know how much that counterattack can really get you. Um, So yeah, it's not an easy matchup. I think it's unfortunate that this should probably be the final, but hey, that's how the tournament rolls. Um, I know you're going for PSG. I know that your prediction is going to be PSG, as it should. I wouldn't, obviously someone that grew up in the academy of PSG, I would expect nothing less from you. But for you, what are like the big keys for you for PSG as they're as they're going to approach this Bayern Munich side?
Well, I guess coach wise, but I think who else outside of Dembele is going to step up to the game?
Hmm.
Because I think last year the big thing was that there was three or four players that were dangerous enough. Now that is that, and I'm curious to see how company manages a different style of play.
Hmm.
Because yes, they face Real, right? But there's more individuals in that team than in PSG.
Hmm.
So I think that's probably their biggest takeaway of how Bayern is going to be able to manage that. And then tactically, because if you keep on giving the same free kick or free play that you give Real last game, you will get punished a lot more now.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with that part, and I think also a big challenge for PSG would be, you know, with the attack with Jamal Musiala, with Michael Olise, Harry Kane. Like, how do you contain those guys? Keep them quiet. And I mean, you can say with Real Madrid, they kept those guys fairly quiet, but it
Yeah.
was when those big slip ups. Like, do you feel PSG's backline can minimize, if not just not exist with those mistakes that Real Madrid did with Bayern Munich's attack?
I've not seen those mistakes yet. And it's also the battle of some of the best friends because Olise is also very good friends with what, three or four of those guys, young. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he balls out when in pairs to play. That one's going to be the most interesting for me because I want to see how he plays in front of his home crowd. But I think other than that, it will be Harry Kane and maybe Hakimi battle will be another one interesting to see.
Yep, two guys that were featured on the 26 most influential players of the FIFA World Cup, according to FS1.
And Pulisic beat him to it too, huh?
Yeah, yeah, that's still diabolical to me. But obviously, once again, those matches are going to be played April 28th and May 5th for Cinco. So Cinco de Mayo, we'll be finding out if PSG or Bayern Munich will be moving on to the Champions League final. And then the second semifinal is Atletico Madrid taking on Arsenal. Probably not the sexiest of matches, right? Not the
Yeah.
one team is very dependent, is very sturdy on the back line. They'll let you possess the ball. They'll let you do what you want to do, but they're gonna find their opportunities, right? Versus Arsenal, who really love set pieces. So they're gonna be playing April 29th, and then May 6th will be their their deciding match, their second leg. Um, but yeah, two very interesting styles of play, and I'm curious who's gonna be the one that has the ball.
Yeah. I'm sure it will be a very low possession percentage. And it might be a snoozer a little bit. Um, but hey, that defense wins you championship most often. So if that's what Simeone works, then so be it.
I mean, on the flip side with Arsenal, obviously, maybe not the highest scoring of matches, but have been able to keep it very close. So you can probably say some things about Arsenal's defense as well. Uh, at least to that of obviously when you have Gabriel and Saliba in your back line, that's also very important. But the question is going to be who's going to be able to break through. Um, I guess who can overcome whose defense when it comes down to that, who are you liking as far as like attack wise?
Yeah, I'll probably say Atletico is going to take that one. and another one is that maybe Simeone will outsmart Arteta.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Arteta's definitely no Hansi Flick, so this is a very. I mean, this is make or break it. You know, you're talking about Arsenal that they need to have a signature win in this Champions League to really get the fans going. Um, this is the big bad wolf. You know, Diego Simeone and his team of goons, essentially, right? And it's just like, can Arsenal finally have that signature victory where everything's clicking, right? Everything's connecting. They're playing fluid. They're playing whatever Mikel Arteta ball is besides set pieces, and win a match. You know, especially, let's be honest, in the Metropolitano is not gonna be an easy. It's not easy over there. It's not an easy crowd. It is gonna. They're one game away from getting Antoine Griezmann into the Champions League final.
Right.
So there's a lot to prove there. But on the other side, Arsenal has a lot to prove as well. Um, Honestly, I want to say Arsenal, but I just don't know if Atletico is gonna give them that. And I mean, even then, if you put them on a set piece, the height of that back line that Atletico Madrid has, like, you know, and I mean, I know Jan Black is not the same Jan Black from back in the day, but he's still one of the best keepers in the world, in my opinion. This is a lot challenging for set pieces. I think if there's a team that can definitely contest against set pieces, is definitely Atletico Madrid. So I mean, that might their one ace in the hole might be not might be like null and void for them when it comes to Atletico Madrid. So it could be Diego Simeone taking Atletico Madrid to, I think this would be their third Champions League final if it does happen, because you know
Hey,
eh,
they want to take Griezmann there for one final ride.
I mean, Atletico Madrid looks more and more like a dark horse, and if they could do it one more time and get to the final, I mean, anything's possible. And like you said, defense wins you championships, and I mean, this is the most defense of all defenses if you really think about it in this competition.
And they're not afraid, and they don't care about it.
Yeah, they're unapologetically. Atletico Madrid is very unapologetically themselves. So I mean, so yeah, so I feel like, in my opinion, I am thinking it's gonna be PSG and Atletico Madrid. I think that could be the final, which that's gonna be a very interesting final if that's the case. But I think at this point, either any of these teams in the final. I mean, obviously you want PSG in the final. I know. But any of these teams in the final will be really interesting. I think that this could, you know, very well balanced. By the way, the only thing's missing is Italy, but we all know why Italy's not here. But you have the Premier League, you have Bundesliga, you got Liga, and you got La Liga. I mean, just looking at that right now, do you think that Serie A just dips down to be the fifth team in the Power Five leagues in Europe?
I'll say yes.
Yes.
And one of the main reasons too is that their top team already got smashed like last time, so they almost don't even deserve to be there. So it's interesting now to see what these teams here that have performed well enough in their domestic league and um, in Europe to come and show us what they are capable of. Because I think maybe that was sort of an outlier last year with Inter.
No, yeah, I think it's just that they had the strategy against a high line, but I think
Yeah,
also, talking about games that exposed, not only did it expose like Barcelona's system, but it also really much exposed Inter Milan. So
yes.
so it was definitely two flips of the coin, and I think PSG, they were just a freight train that no one was gonna slow down. I honestly think with that run, but here we are. PSG is probably on the cusp of a back-to-back Champions League appearance. It's not the easiest thing to do, especially in this format, the way it is now. It seems like the new format has been PSG's formula now.
Yeah, and if that happens, you could bet that Dembele will be in talk again for Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, especially if France goes very far in the World Cup. I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah. When? Yeah.
I'm still refraining from making predictions. FS1 was wild for one of the guys saying that England's his pick to win it all, which I was like,
I
or
guess
the
they've not watched soccer since,
or
30
the
plus years.
or the guy that picked Brazil to win it all.
Well, that
Well, my whole thing with that is just that like you said that, but then you also said a lot of things about one you did a disservice to Rafinha, and this is coming from a Real Madrid fan, but you did a disservice to Rafinha to say he's getting overshadowed by Lamine Yamal, and then the audacity to say he's getting overshadowed by Vinny.
mm,
So I just thought that was wild enough its own right. But then say he's going to be important to Brazil's run, but yet you place him very low. Is yeah, that's just disrespecting at all levels.
I think they just picked the easy one or the most well-known teams to say, oh, they have a chance to win it all. Like,
Edwards' theory for Vinny's pick because they have Vinny at 7 is because Vinny just wears 7.
that'd be even worse. Yeah.
Yeah,
So who
because
did they have at one?
you want to take a wild guess?
Lamar? Lamine?
Mm,
Yamal?
he played for Barcelona.
Wait, who?
Messi.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah, you want to hear who number 2 was?
Who?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
No, they're just picking the most famous players and then just like, all right. Yes, they will be known because they are them, but sport wise or soccer wise, they won't be. Messi
Oh,
got his World Cup. He's almost
so,
happy to have it. That one.
so me and Edward, we did a top 5 because let's be honest, most influential players. That's just too many. But 5 players we thought was fair. Number 1, we put Kylian Mbappe. We
Okay.
were just like Mbappe, dude. If he can get to three straight World Cup finals, that's
That's
just it.
Pele status.
Also be impactful in those World Cup finals as well. Because I believe he see like 2018 was a blur for me because I was like really drunk. I mean like really drunk, and I remember partying with a bunch of French people. But
He was
like
he was the youngest goal scorer. He broke
that
Pele's record, and I think he's what
okay.
scored the youngest to score 3, 4 goals in the World Cup. I mean,
Okay, I was like I'm pretty sure he scored a goal. The only one I really remember was Paul Pogba. That was like the goal I really remembered, and I think that was like the dagger. But like I mean that game was
that guy.
yeah that guy love him. But as a matter of fact, like I was wearing a Paul Pogba French shirt, and then so these guys were waiting in line at the bar with me. They were like, "Are you French?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Well, today you are."
Yeah.
I still
Yes.
that's well obviously it was like we just walked into the bar, so of course I'm sober. But I remember walking in, I wasn't there with anybody. It was just me just going to the bar by myself. And
Right.
so I remember I'm like going to get me a drink, and then all I hear is, my friend, my friend, my friend. And I'm just like, he's like, do you have friends with you? I was like, no. He's like, well, you're with us. And literally they had a loaf of French bread and jelly, and I was just like, all right.
Hey, you got
So
let it soak up first.
I thought that was just, I was like, well, they brought breakfast. That's great. But yeah, no, great time. Like I said, I don't generally remember the match. Well, it was a fun match. I remember some of the goals, but like obviously I was drinking a lot that day, so the only thing I really remember was I was like, I know Mbappe scored a goal, and I know Pogba scored a goal. That was the 2 things I remember from that game, and then I was just partying with a bunch of French people the rest of the day. So,
Hey, can't go
um,
wrong with that.
yeah, it was a great day. But yeah, Kylian, and then of course, the final that he had in 2022, which scores a hat trick of all things. So, and Messi still got to overcome that. But that was still probably is going to go down as like one of the best finals.
Oh yeah,
Probably is the best final. Just
most
because,
exciting one for like the neutral. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. But yeah, no. So yeah, we had number 1 Kylian Mbappe. I believe number 2 is Lamine Yamal. Number 3, Edward said brought up Valverde, which I wasn't gonna go against my adopted son, but like, and then I think number 4 we had Harry Kane, and number 5 we had Rafinha.
Okay.
So not a crazy list. I also told everyone we probably should put Valverde at fifth just to be fair.
If it was his season at that time, yeah.
I mean, Valverde is very important to Uruguay, and I know a lot of people are looking at Uruguay as like a potential dark horse team that probably could sneak in for some people. Also, the thing is like it's gonna be hard to predict this World Cup just because it's the expanded World Cup. Now you have like the best third place teams that can also make it. That are going to make it to the knockout rounds. So it's like it really can just come down to just matchup. The matchup could really just ruin a team's chances. Though, to be fair, France is also very loaded. Like, picking the French national team, I think is like probably the most unfair thing. You're talking about like a true Sophie's choice here when it comes to picking these guys.
It's not too bad. Can't complain.
It's not a bad thing, right? Like, it's not like
Yes.
you're picking like world class players against world class. Like, there's a guy that's gonna be missing out, and it's just because he's just not better than the guy in front of him.
Yeah, they got to be on the bench. Yeah.
That's just yeah. France have done a lot of great things with their system, man. Like it's just I feel like it just everyone. I'm just gonna hear about another 18-year-old out of nowhere, just like
Oh, there's about 5 or 6 of them waiting behind.
I know.
And some of them have decided to go for other African countries. But yeah, there's about a dozen that are waiting.
But yeah, that's Champions League, Moussa. I mean, I'm sure you're very excited. You're obviously you're emotionally invested. I am not emotionally invested anymore.
Anymore?
So, no, it's a done tournament that I don't know why you would want to win.
Don't you have 15 of them?
I want more. Okay,
Right.
like once you get to 15, now you just want 20. So
Yeah. We want 5.
I mean, like how long was Real Madrid stuck at 9 for so many years? Like, and now they're back, but well, maybe not right now.
Used to.
Used to be. We'll see what happens with them, man. But obviously, Moussa, it's been a pleasure. Tell us where we can find you, man.
Yeah, the usual Mofootball TV and the website too, mofootball.tv is official now. So yes, more interviews, more watch-alongs, I believe, this weekend for City versus Seattle. And quite a few USL interviews, and some of my good friends were in town. Um, yeah, there's a few international players very soon. So make sure you like, subscribe, and do all that fun stuff because it might just pop up on the page without any notices.
That's the best way to do it, man. But obviously, Moussa, it's always a pleasure to have you on, man. We're going to go ahead and take a break and then continue on with the rest of this episode.
Pleasure.
I love soccer, Peggy.
All right, big thank you to Moussa to come on and talk Champions League, man. So, a little backstory there. So, I was actually trying to get Moussa to come on to talk the round of 16 and then preview the quarterfinals. Moussa was unfortunately not available because he was out of the country. He got to go to Honduras, which was pretty cool just because, obviously Central America, I'm always going to have pride for that. Essentially, like, obviously, like, Moussa's love for Africa is essentially my love for Central America. So, cool to get him to experience Central America. Hopefully next time he goes to El Salvador and gets to experience, the land that my family's from. But yeah, man, so I was trying to get him on to talk round of 16. Obviously he wasn't available. So I was like, next round, you're coming on. And that's what happened. So, obviously I always love talking with Moussa, man. Moussa is, always a joy and, hope to always I'm always going to try to bring him on as much as I can, man. That's just given. So, but make sure you guys check him out on YouTube, Mofootball. Check out his website, man. It's really awesome, really cool website. I've gone on a few times and it's just a good read, a good listen, and everything that Mofootball is, man. I love Moussa, and he's definitely a man that's very passionate about the game. But all right, so we are at the home stretch of Europe. The European football calendar is near its tail end, and there are still things to follow. So we're going to look at the Power 5 leagues. And And obviously next season, we might have to have a discussion. We might have to have a discussion of how we actually rank these Power 5 leagues. So that might be a fun episode to have. Maybe have like some other personalities as well on there to really debate this of what's really the number one league in Europe, what's really world, I guess you can say, but what's really the best league in the world, and what is that fifth league in the world, so we'll discuss that. That'll be an interesting ranking system just to have that as well. But we're going to start things off with Ligue 1. I think for quite some time, me and Edward have always viewed it as the fifth league. But maybe we shouldn't be, because especially when you look at, as me and Moussa, we talked about it, man, like looking at that Final Four Champions League, yes, it's PSG, but still, Liga very, very well represented in the Final Four with, PSG over there. You have Bayern Munich of the Bundesliga being represented. You have Atletico Madrid representing La Liga, and then you have Arsenal representing the Premier League. And the Serie A sides, out fairly early. So, well, maybe not early, but we're knocked out early in the knockout rounds. The teams that were still in the knockout rounds, which I believe was Atalanta. So that is a fair conversation to have, to be honest with you. But we'll start things off with Ligue 1. No offense to Moussa, but obviously on my side you're going to see the league table over there for Ligue 1. I'll also have the date on the corner if you're watching the video version, just in case anybody's trying to when did that doesn't look like how it was when we last saw it. So just so you guys know, so date's going to be right there when we record it. If you guys want me to reiterate it, it is April 19th. So that is when we're recording it. So I believe Strasbourg hasn't played and Lens hasn't played, and PSG has 2 games in hand. So there's that. But so if there's any changes to the table, well, we're here. But all right, man. So obviously, tables to my side if you guys want to take a gander over there if you're watching the video version. But real stories to follow in this home stretch of Ligue 1, and the big one is going to be right now just the interesting competition right now between PSG and RC Lens. RC Lens, I don't think anybody had in their bingo cards as a team that's going to be in second place. On top of that, actually making a good competition with PSG. Now PSG, like I said, me and Moussa, we talked about with PSG. Very slow start, very quiet start to the season. Obviously injuries came in a factor as well, but probably also a little bit just being on tired legs. The fact that they played a lot of football, last season. They obviously won the Champions League, had their domestic treble, won the Champions League, and then on top of that, we're at the final of the FIFA Club World Cup. So they played a lot. So it's just a real big thing. So it was expected to have a slow start, but guess what? Still on top of Ligue 1 and are 1 round away from the Champions League final yet again. So obviously really good team. And on top of that, right now, as it stands, they have 2 games in hand. So, while they do have an interesting competition right now with Lens, has actually 1 match in hand versus PSG's 2, but still things can change. And obviously PSG just did take a loss to Olympique Lyon, so that also factors in as well in the discussion. But yeah, right now it's interesting to just see 2 teams going at it for that Ligue 1 title. Normally you would expect PSG to have already won it by this point, and it's not the case because Lens is still very much in it. Now, it's going to be interesting once they are evened up. Does PSG able to get the full 6 points of those 2 matches in hand, which then would separate themselves a little bit further from RC Lens, which right now is just a 1 point difference. But obviously, there's been matches where PSG has looked slow, have not looked really much like PSG. They have been beaten a few times. Like I said, they just lost to Olympique Lyon, so they're not necessarily. This isn't the same PSG team, and at the same time, they're also still have Champions League to play. They have a really big opponent with Bayern Munich as well. So this is probably the time to pounce if you're RC Lens, to really get the best out of PSG and maybe be able to jump over them. But yes, PSG still hasn't won Ligue 1, and it's still in the table for RC Lens. Now that also can dictate. It all depends on how PSG gets, how they finish in Ligue 1, obviously, but also on top of that, just getting those matches in hand. If they get 6 out of 6 points, PSG has their lead, and it's another league title for PSG. But it is really cool to see RC Lens in there. I think it's a team that, once again, not many people expected to have in their bingo card, but here they are. The other storyline to follow is that final Champions League spot. If you guys don't know, Ligue 1, there's only 3 Champions League spots. Now, depending on the coefficient, however they rate, for that additional Champions League spot, it could be possible that, Ligue 1 is the one that gets that extra Champions League spot. But I think that's just going to dictate a lot of, right now, obviously, I think the conversations between Bundesliga, Ligue 1, La Liga, and the Premier League. So I think we won't find out maybe till the final who gets that additional league spot, that Champions League spot. But I mean, if PSG can get to the final, I would imagine that that's going to be given to them, especially if they're able to dethrone Bayern Munich. So, yeah. So that could be 4 Champions League spots in Liga. We'll see what happens there. But right now, it's just that one spot, which is 3rd place. Like I said, PSG and RC Lens are very safe in where they are. They are going to the Champions League next season. So they're really not up for question as far as 1st and 2nd. But that 3rd place spot is up for grabs. Now, I was actually typing this up before the Lyon match, but now now that Lyon got the 3 points against PSG, they actually have jumped up to that 3rd place spot. So originally they were actually 6th place. They were originally 6th place when I was looking at the table. Now with the updated table, they are currently at 3rd place. So they are in a prominent spot to get into the Champions League, which is huge for them. I mean, obviously Lyon, crazy story to follow with them. Obviously with all the things with their financial issues, almost got relegated down to the second division because of their finances issues. Got that addressed, and went and got Endrick on loan, and has really paid off tremendously for this team. I think so far a really good campaign for them. A little inconsistent, ups and downs, kind of how you expect Olympique Lyon have been over the years, but still a very good team and has a shot at the Champions League. Now, the other teams that they're contesting, obviously, is Lille, Rennes, Marseille, and, of course, Monaco. All of them very much within each other. I mean, it's like a 4-point difference from that 3rd place spot all the way down to 7 where Monaco is. So it's still very much in play for these teams. So that is really something that's going to be following Lyon, following Lille, following Stade Rennes, following Marseille, and following Monaco, seeing how they finish out. If they finish strong and some things happen hopefully, I don't know if any of these teams will be facing each other soon, but, let me see. Okay, so Lyon will be playing on May 3rd. Lyon will be playing Stade Rennes, so that is a big match for them, and they will finish the season with Lens. So that's going to be important for them to get full advantage. Lille does take on Monaco at some point in that final stretch of games, so that's going to be big. But yeah, so Rennes, so Lyon, Lille, Rennes, and Monaco have chances to jump over one of these teams here. So it's going to be really imperative how they finish in the season to get that final Champions League spot. You could also hope that Ligue 1 gets an extra Champions League spot, and that would be great. But right now, the reality is there's only 3 Champions League spots in Ligue 1, and it's the 3rd place spot. So it is very much up for grabs. So if there's any reason to watch Ligue 1 this season for the final stretch of the season, besides maybe eventually PSG is going to win it, it's going to be who gets that Champions League spot. Who do we see Lyon back in the Champions League? Do we see Monaco, Marseille, or Stade Rennes, or Lille make a good good debate for themselves? So there is still a lot to play there in the Champions League spot, especially for that 3rd place spot. But also European competitions are still in play, right? 3rd is obviously a final Champions League spot. 4th is Europa Conference League. What's 6? I guess 6 is Conference League as well. Conference League play-in? Yeah, Conference League qualification. So, actually, 4th is a Champions League qualification, so that could be a Europa League spot. So yeah, there you go. So that is the Champions League story. And obviously, I think for all these leagues, there's going to be Champions League discussed, just because obviously the final Champions League spots are going to be very much in question. And then the last thing to talk about for Ligue 1 is the relegation zone. It is a very it's not looking good for Oxieti. Oxieti is looking very much going to be relegated. I mean, they have to win out. Obviously, that's the big thing, and just hope that Nice can just have a rough stretch of games. I mean, they got Marseille, they got Lens, they got Oxieti as well, so that's a big opportunity if things aren't looking good for Nice, that Oxieti can maybe get a jump over them, and that they end the season with Metz, which Metz is just, they're getting relegated. Nantes and Oxieti are very much still in play for that 16th spot. So if you guys are fully aware, 16th place in Ligue 1 is a playoff spot. So that they play against the third place team in League 2, and the winner goes to Ligue 1. So, if you're Nantes, you're trying to win out your matches as well, which is they got PSG. They got Stade Rennes, another opportunity for them to jump over them. You have Marseille, you have RC Lens, and Toulouse. So you have quite the road ahead of you to get to try to jump over Oxieti. And I think it's probably going to be a challenge, but anything's possible. But yeah, the real story is going to be can Oxieti get out of the relegation zone? Does Nice fall into that relegation zone, or does Nantes get that playoff spot, and Oxieti is the one that gets automatically relegated into League 2. So we'll see what happens, man. I think that's an interesting storyline to follow. But yeah, for Ligue 1, it's not over. There's no reason not to watch this league, man. Like, there's things to watch for, there's storylines to follow, and make sure that that's a very important thing for Ligue 1. But all right, man, in the Bundesliga, look, all right, we already said it. Congratulations to Bayern Munich. Now, all right, I get it. Bundesliga, it's Bayern Munich's year, right? Every year. I think this is now they're 13 in the last 14 years. Probably you could say 14 in the last 15 years, to be honest with you. Bayern Munich has just been a dominant force, man. Obviously props to Bayer Leverkusen in that season that they went undefeated and finally dethroned Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich also had a really good year that year as well. They just weren't undefeated. But Bayern Munich, man, they're still very sturdy. They're reason why Bayern Munich is still the most dominant team in the Bundesliga. And as much as we joke about Vincent Kompany, man, like, he has this team running on all cylinders. And I think if you're a Bundesliga fan, man, you hate Bayern Munich. But if there's anything you could take from it, Bayern Munich has been undeniably one of the better teams this year. Probably the best team this year. In not only performing well in the Bundesliga, but on top of that, just looking like the scariest team in Champions League. And it's unfair that we have PSG and Bayern Munich facing off in the semifinals, because that should honestly be a final. But we are where we are, man. And I think Bayern Munich, if all things to consider, if Bayern Munich can continue just build even more from this year, and I mean, this is like the perfect year. On top of that, Harry Kane, I think, is being talked about as a potential Ballon d'Or candidate. And I mean, it's hard, as much as Moussa doesn't want to agree to it, I can see why, man. I mean, he has been the driving force for Bayern Munich. I believe he's the leading goal scorer for the Bundesliga. Don't really know about Champions League. I don't believe I'm sure he's up there, but yeah, like, if Harry Kane gets a year where he not only wins the Bundesliga but also wins the Champions League, and on top of that, if he can get England into it, go really far in the World Cup, it'd be really hard to not give Harry Kane the Ballon d'Or, and that's going to be crazy for England, right? But yeah, I think, as much as I get it, maybe should we be talking about Bayern Munich winning the Bundesliga to be something to follow for Bundesliga? Probably not, but at the same time, like, man, Bayern Munich is just a really good team, and they're really on pace, I think, to win the Champions League. Especially if they can and because, like, to me, like, a lot of people are going to be saying, like, whoever wins PSG versus Bayern Munich essentially won the Champions League, right? Like, both teams, you may go into that final, whether it's Atletico Madrid, whether it's Arsenal, and maybe you kind of like, we already won. We don't really, we're just going to, beat the brakes out of Atletico, beat the brakes out of Arsenal, and lift the Champions League trophy. It's like, if there was both these teams, I don't ever see overlooking their competition, but I think Bayern Munich is just as efficient as they've been. They're probably more than likely not to underestimate whoever's on that other side, whether it's Diego Simeone and his men or a very desperate Mikel Arteta that needs to win a trophy. So, like, this is going to be really interesting to see in the Champions League final. Like, do we see Bayern Munich and, do they bring a Champions League back? Because last time they won, it was in COVID. It was the COVID year. And, a lot of people take that Champions League with a grain of salt. And funny enough, it is PSG was the other team that was in that final. But it is going to be an interesting storyline to follow for sure. It's just how Bayern Munich finishes this year. They already got the Bundesliga, so that's already like one stressor already away for Bayern, right? They won the Bundesliga. They're the Bundesliga champions. Not entirely sure if I don't know. Do they have DFB Pokal? Are they in the final for DFB Pokal? Because if that's the case, or did they get eliminated? I don't know. About to find out. This is good podcasting, by the way. They are in the DFB Pokal. They are playing. Is this the final? Let me see. Is this the final? It is not. It's a semifinal. So we have a semifinal, which is Leverkusen and Bayern Munich, which they're playing. The match has already been played. But yeah, so okay, so they still have a shot at the DFB Pokal. So you're talking about a potential treble for Bayern Munich, man. That they're really good. I mean, potentially could break the record for most points in the season. I think maybe. They only have one loss to their name, 25 wins, 4 draws, and I believe they haven't lost in 16 matches. So, I think that was the whole shtick with them. Let me see. Bayern haven't lost in 16 matches. Yep. So they haven't lost in 16 matches, man. So very strong team. I mean, yes, 109 goals. By the way, they have scored 109 goals this season, dude. Like Jesus Christ. Like the next closest team is like Stuttgart with like 62. So, which they beat, which Bayern Munich beat today. So now, yeah, Bayern Munich once again 1 trophy down. They still got the DFB Pokal and they still have the Champions League, which I think a lot of people are very much favoring them to win it.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at RighteousFelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon Jerky.
The other thing to follow, man, is the battle for second. Look, Bundesliga title is done, right? We already know who's winning the Bundesliga. That's Bayern Munich. But Borussia Dortmund and RB Leipzig are duking it out for second place. Obviously it just seems like that's always the trend, right? With the Bundesliga. But like, yeah, they're duking it out, man. At this point, it's strictly for bragging rights. And you might be able to throw Stuttgart in there as well. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. They're not that they're like 3 points behind Leipzig. But obviously the real talk is Dortmund and Leipzig. I think they're always in the conversation. They're literally 5 points away from each other. Dortmund. Let me see their final matches. They don't see Leipzig at all, but they do have Freiburg. They got Mönchengladbach, Frankfurt, and Werder Bremen to end the year. Obviously, coming off of 2 straight losses, one to Leverkusen and the other one to Hoffenheim. They're kind of going in some sort of rut of form, I guess you could say. And then you got Leipzig on the other side, man. So, who beat Frankfurt 3-1. Next, they got Union Berlin. They got Leverkusen, so that's going to be a big matchup there. They got St. Pauli and Freiburg. So there's some matches happening, but we'll see if Dortmund can light a fire under themselves and maybe not finish in third, or Leipzig gets to be second. And I mean, I know we're talking about second place, right? But when it's the Bundesliga, and we want someone to compete with Bayern Munich. Leverkusen was in it while Xabi Alonso was there, but we're here where we're here. So, including Leipzig into this next discussion, which is the Champions League, man. So obviously, Champions League spots is third and fourth place. And Leipzig, Stuttgart, Hoffenheim, and Leverkusen are very much still in the race for those Champions League spots. Leipzig has 59, Stuttgart has 56 points, Hoffenheim has 54, and Leverkusen has 52. Leverkusen is 7 points away from third place. And obviously, we already talked about who Leipzig is playing. Stuttgart already got the bad one out of the way, right? They lost to Bayern Munich. They're still in play for the DFB Pokal, which, I mean, obviously, if you win that, earns you an Europa League spot. But, Stuttgart, you got Werder Bremen, you got Hoffenheim, you got Leverkusen, and you got Frankfurt. So you have a chance to build some separation from the likes of Hoffenheim and Leverkusen. So that's going to be really important for Stuttgart there. Hoffenheim, I mean, I already mentioned that they're already going to play against Stuttgart. They got already big win against Dortmund, right? Already beat Dortmund. But then you take on Hamburger, and then you got Werder Bremen and Mönchengladbach on top of that match against Stuttgart. So that's going to help them out tremendously. And then Leverkusen, I mean, they do have a DFB Pokal match with Bayern Munich, so that's probably where their focus is going to be on. But then you got Cologne, you got Leipzig, big matchup there, Leverkusen, and Hamburger. So an opportunity to definitely build on gain some traction in that Champions League spot. But that is like this real discussion is the battle for second and who's gained those last two Champions League spots. Is very much in play. I think Dortmund is safe as far as like second or maybe drops down to third. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting story to follow with the Bundesliga. So there are still things to follow there. In the Serie A, man, So I get the people's arguments about how this is not the best league. This league's not good. It's mid-tier. I mean, I think it's just for people, for nostalgia reasons, they want to see Serie A still be considered one of the top leagues in the world just because of the history of the Milan teams, obviously with Juventus, Napoli, Roma, the history of Fiorentina, like the history of these clubs that are played are just very significant, man. And I think that's what people want to see is hope that these leagues are still in the conversation just because of the historical piece of the Serie A, man. So I get that, but it is more and more seeming like maybe the league's just not good. There's a lot of issues, and I mean, me and Moussa, we talked about, he shared his thoughts about the Serie A. We talked about how Italy once again not making the World Cup. It's all these things like maybe we need to start looking at the Serie A more and figure out what are they not doing that's really getting the best out of the league. And I think it's just because their teams are getting old. Their teams are getting old. They're not really they're not getting younger. There's not many like young Italian players that really have gotten you excited over the years. And I mean, and the ones that did, unfortunately got hit with a scandal. So a lot needs to be corrected in Serie A. Maybe kind of take a page out of the Bundesliga. Obviously, maybe not a full page out of the Bundesliga, but like how Germany has applied very strict rules as far as player development in the Bundesliga. So maybe that's the route that Serie A needs to get to is start implementing rules again. Where like, hey, we need to have X amount of Italian players on the roster, X amount of guys that need to be playing. Start strengthening the Serie A a little bit more to start developing Italian players, and I think developing that Italian pride and have that feel back for the Serie A. Because I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, some of the best teams that we had in AC Milan and Inter and Juve had a lot of iconic Italian players. Players like Andrea Pirlo, players like Gattuso, not so much as a manager. Girardino, Filippo Inzaghi. The list goes on and on. Nesta, Cannavaro. Like there's always been a good amount of Italian players represented in these big clubs, and sorry for yawning. And we need to get that back. I guess Serie A is putting me to sleep. All right, but the stories to follow is Inter Milan, man. I don't. The big thing is just it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when they're going to win the Scudetto. I mean, very much in the lead, 78 points ahead of second place AC Milan. So they're just very much in the driver's seat, man. It's going to take like a catastrophic meltdown because, like I said, they're 12 points away from AC Milan with 5 matches left. They have Torino, Parma, Lazio, Hellas Verona, and Bologna. Those are the matches that they're playing to conclude the season. It will go down with a catastrophic meltdown if Inter Milan is not able to win the Scudetto. Yes, they have Coppa Italia, which I believe it's the second leg. Let me see. Yeah, second leg, and obviously the final will be in May. But still very much in play for the Coppa Italia. They are still very much the heavy favorites, and I think that, to me, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we see Inter Milan win another Scudetto. Obviously not the most ideal Champions League run, especially a team that was in the final the year before, and obviously not an ideal Champions League final to one they don't want to remember. But yeah, I think Inter Milan, the question is going to be when they officially clinch it as the Serie A champions. The other thing to follow is AC Milan and Napoli, another battle for second place. Both teams have 66 points right now on the table. Both are even in matches. AC Milan, this is all they really had to focus on. Like, to be honest with you, AC Milan really has nothing else to play for. They literally have just been playing Coppa Italia and Serie A matches. They didn't have to worry about Champions League. They didn't have to worry about Europa League. They didn't even have to worry about Conference League. They did not qualify for a single European competition last season, and this is all they had to focus on. But they have just been madly inconsistent. They'll give you good games. They'll win 1-0 against Inter Milan, but then lose 3-0 to Udinese. It's just unacceptable inconsistencies. And on top of that, man, like, Christian Pulisic has just been in a drought. Constant drought. Now, I'm not saying that he's AC Milan's most important player, but when they were performing, there was a correlation with them being really good and Christian Pulisic scoring goals. But then, mind you, a lot of these guys have been madly inconsistent. Santi Jimenez, a lot of people in Mexico aren't necessarily, crowning him the starting 9, right? So it's a combination of just a lot of just inconsistencies with this AC Milan side, and it needs to be addressed for next season, especially because they're essentially in the Champions League. They are in the Champions League. They just need to, not fuck this up. Sorry for cousin Kelsey, but you do have Juventus next week. You have Sassuolo. You have Atalanta. You have Genoa, and you have Cagliari to end the season. A lot of pressure, man. A lot of pressure to have a consistent, strong finish. They have to be consistent. They have to get results. Christian Pulisic needs to put some goals in the back of the net, not only for his sake or AC Milan's sake, but also for people that are criticizing him for the U.S. men's national team. So there's a lot of pressure. Santi Jimenez as well, man. There's a lot of criticism for him as well. Like, a lot of guys are getting criticized in AC Milan, not only for their club team, but also for the national team. Like, the thing is, at the end of the day, you had zero excuse. You had nothing else to worry about. You didn't have any Champions League to worry about. You didn't have Europa League. You didn't even have Conference League to worry about. All you had to worry about was the Serie A and Coppa Italia. That's all you had to worry about to finish, to focus on this season. And yes, you got the Champions League. That's great. The big thing I think for a lot of Milan fans, if this was all you had to focus on, you should have at least been closer to being on first place. And you're not. You're 12 points away from first place, which, one is props to Inter Milan, right? Inter Milan just are really good Serie A side. But if you're AC Milan and this is all you had focused on, there has to be an issue for the inconsistency that it was with AC Milan. But hey, you're here in 6th place. You have a chance to finish strong. You're going to be in the Champions League, at least hopefully, as long as you don't mess it up. And then on the other side, you have Napoli. Kind of interesting story with Napoli, man. I don't really know what to really say about them, but yeah, I really don't know what to say about Napoli, man. are a really good team. Obviously, you had some really good performances. Probably, honestly, as far as consistency goes, probably the more consistent team probably should be the second place team. And I mean, they're both tied with 66 points. The only thing is just that Milan has scored, have allowed fewer goals than Napoli. But I think people trust more Napoli, as a team that obviously has won the Serie A. I believe they won last year, and so very sturdy team. Obviously, a lot of historical reasoning there, but then obviously you had Scott McTominay, who had an amazing season with them last year. Hoshin had a really good year. And I think this is kind of where Jose Tejas from Goals TV has viewed how bad Serie A is. That Scott McTominay, a lot of people would argue, was maybe not a very good Premier League player over with Manchester United, and comes here and becomes a stud. I don't know, man. I think my viewpoint with Scott McTominay, I don't necessarily think he was bad for Manchester United. I don't think he was a bad player. I think he just didn't. I don't know. I just don't really know. It's so hard to really gauge with Manchester United. Because I mean, Kevin De Bruyne was really has always been good for Man City. He goes to Napoli, and I mean, he's been pretty good, pretty decent. So I don't really know what that if really say that's what indicates that Serie A is not a good league when a guy like Scott McTominay can come in and become the best player in the Serie A. I think he fits what Napoli does. So this is where I don't want to say Serie A is necessarily the worst, the worst league of the Power Five. But I do get those arguments, for that. But Napoli has an interesting stretch of matches. They have Cremonese, they have Como. That's a pretty big one. You have Bologna, Pisa, and Udinese. So, an easier pathway compared to AC Milan. So there is a good chance. And like I said, Napoli is definitely a little bit more consistent to me than versus AC Milan. AC Milan, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up losing a few matches in this final stretch of games where Napoli just gets second place. But hey, anything can happen, right? At this point, nobody's in Champions League at this point. So there's that. The other storyline is, it's going to be featured a lot, is the Champions League spots. And specifically that fourth final spot. I think it is crazy to say that we're viewing Milan and Napoli really safe, or at least I am, because I mean they're only 3 points behind Juventus. They're 3 points behind Juventus, but I think we're talking about that fourth final Champions League spot, which right now you have the likes of Juventus, Como, and Roma battling it out for those final matches. Juventus, I mean, have gone through their own rough stretch of games, really rough stretch of games. You're gonna finish it. One, you got Milan this weekend. You got Hellas Verona, you got Lecce, you got Fiorentina, and then you end the year with a Turin derby. So against Torino. So I think that's gonna it's gonna be an intense finish for Juventus. But I think for them, man, to get it, to get back in the champion. I mean, they were in the Champions League this season. Very bad ending for them as they got eliminated by Galatasaray. But still, Juventus wants to get back in the conversation, wants to get back and being the old lady that we used to know, right? The team that was constantly winning the Serie A. Now it's just they have not been that team anymore. And I think talking about teams that need to go back to the identities, Juventus is one of those teams as well, trying to get back to the identity. Now, on the other side, you got Como, who have since come into the Serie A, have just been a force to reckon with. Obviously, they're in the semifinal against Inter Milan for the Coppa Italia, so that's going to be obviously something that they're going to put their attention on. But on top of that, you got Genoa, you got Napoli, Hellas Verona, Parma, and Cremonese to finish off the season. So they have quite the gauntlet to get through. Now, can they go? I mean, obviously they're gonna put all their attention against that Inter Milan match because obviously an opportunity to win the Coppa Italia is going to be massive for them. But it's going to be really important that they finish strong, especially if they want that fourth and final Champions League spot. Because if not, well, it's Europa League. Even if winning Coppa Italia can get them the Europa League as well. So, we'll see what happens for them over there as well. And then Roma. Obviously, Roma have a lot of love for this team. Madly inconsistent, at least in the final stretch. It's been a rough, very inconsistent for them. And I mean, they got Bologna, Fiorentina, Parma, Lazio, and then end the season with Hellas Verona. Very important that Scalabrini can get the best out of these guys and finish strong, man. Because I would love nothing more for this team to make it to the Champions League. Gasparini, I don't know why I said Scalabrini. Gasparini, which, I would love to see him, do well with this side. So, I would love Roma to be back in the Champions League. I really do. I would really love to see that. I'm super biased now. I don't really support, when I talk about Serie A and so for those of you that are trying to figure out oh, Hector, didn't you used to say you like AC Milan? I even said I used to like Bayern Munich, but I did a cleansing. So I did a cleansing of who do I really support. And so now the way, and now that I've really figured it out, the real test was, would I be pissed if Real Madrid loses to this team? And the question was yes. I would be pissed off if Real Madrid loses to Bayern Munich. Matter of fact, I was pissed off that Real Madrid lost to Bayern Munich. Would I be pissed off if Real Madrid lost to AC Milan? I was pissed off at that. Would I be pissed off if they lost to Olympic? I would be massively pissed off if they lost to Olympic Lyon. And then on top of that, I was like, would I be pissed off if Real Madrid lost to Arsenal? And as a matter of fact, I was very much pissed off. And it's funny because I'm wearing an Arsenal kit. Now, to get to that point. So, my two clubs, and I always say it, two clubs, at least not this is how now I say it. My two clubs is Houston Dynamo and Real Madrid. Houston Dynamo is obviously my local. That's where I support. And then Real Madrid is the club I identify with. That is my club. That is the team that I will ride till the end. And then the way I've always said it, I have a soft spot for Arsenal. So I don't consider myself an Arsenal supporter. I don't call myself a gooner. I am just a person that likes Arsenal. I just have a soft spot for Arsenal. And that's why I keep saying I have a soft spot for Arsenal. I like the team. I keep rooting for them. It is frustrating at times. But when it comes down to it, man, Real Madrid trumps everybody. Real Madrid is my favorite team, period. My club, period. Even American sports, and people have seen it. I'll put on the Real Madrid match way before I watch the Texans, way before I watch the Astros. I never have to do it with the Dynamo because Real Madrid plays, in the afternoon. But yes, that's where my allegiance goes. So no, I don't support AC Milan. I do have some Serie A kits. I have a PSG kit, but that's because of Sergio Ramos. So I don't really have a Serie A team. I don't have a Bundesliga team. I don't have a Liga team. All I have is Real Madrid. It's Real Madrid or nothing. But I do have a soft spot for Arsenal. I would love to see Arsenal succeed at some point. Just not against Real Madrid. But yeah, so that just so you guys have that idea of that. But that is Serie A. In La Liga, speaking of my team, Real Madrid, La Liga. Oh man! All right, so the first thing to really follow with La Liga is whether or not this is gonna be a Barca victory, and I think very much it is going to be. But the thing that we'll be following is that while Barcelona has a 9-point lead, once again I'll say it again, a 9-point lead in La Liga. This team has also proven to be madly inconsistent, and there's still a lot of matches to be played. So Barcelona has Celta Vigo, Getafe, Osasuna, has El Clásico on May 10th. Deportivo Alaves, you have Real Betis, and then you finish the year with Valencia. They are 9 points clear. Now, they should be able to win La Liga. 9 points is a good lead. But we've also seen Barcelona also choke away some big leads as well before. So the question will be just where is this team mentally after just what transpired against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, and how do they respond to it? Celta Vigo, they should be these are teams that they should be able to beat, but also in La Liga, it's just some of these teams are massive headaches. Celta Vigo is a massive headache. Getafe is a massive headache. Osasuna is a massive headache. Real Betis is a headache. Valencia used to be one, but you never count them out. But El Clásico is going to be very important to Barcelona as far as getting those final points to really solidify the La Liga this season. So, but what's stopping them? What's going to be on the road? And that is honestly the inconsistency that is Real Madrid. Real Madrid is massively inconsistent. But they have Deportivo Alaves, they have Real Betis, they have Espanyol. Once again, El Clásico on May 10th. They got Real Oviedo, they got Sevilla, and then they end the season with Athletic Club Bilbao. Also, very winnable matches for Real Madrid, but like I said, with the inconsistency that Real Madrid has been, but I will say, if the rumors are true, and obviously me and Moussa, we talked about it when Real Madrid got eliminated by Bayern Munich. If the rumors are true that Florentino Perez essentially went into the locker room, told Arda Güler to stay outside because he didn't need to hear what he was about to say, and he went off on the team and basically told him like, "Hey, all you guys are irreplaceable." Like to quote Beyonce, it's to the box to the left. Like, you guys are, I'm not going to keep you guys if I don't need to. I can sell you, and I'll sell you for crumbs. Like, if he is literally doing this, it's going to be really imperative. You know, like, if he lit a fire under this team's ass, if this team now realizes, like, oh shit, sorry for Cousin Kelsey, I am dispensable. There needs to be something. There needs to be a response. There needs to be a response against Deportivo Alaves. Honestly, there needs to be a response. If they go out there and start and just run the table, and even if they run the table, it's no guarantee that Real Madrid is going to win La Liga. There's no guarantee. I don't like saying that Real Madrid is still in it. They kind of are, but technically they kind of are. But all it's going to take, and it's just, this is how Real Madrid has just been madly inconsistent. I mean, even, you know, they haven't won a game since when they beat Atletico Madrid 3-2. They lost 2-1 to Mallorca. They drew against Girona. And obviously you sandwich in with some losses to Bayern Munich as well. They've just been madly inconsistent. You know, they're ace in the hole, right? Oh, we're Champions League. This is what we do. We're never good everywhere else, but somehow we always find a way to win Champions League. Their ace in the hole is gone. They're not in the Copa del Rey. Real Sociedad won that, by the way. Shout out to Pellegrino Matarazzo, first American to win a trophy in the Power Five of Europe. You know, they're not in Copa del Rey. They didn't win the Spanish Super Cup, even as much as I don't really rate that trophy. You're out of Champions League. This is it. And if, like I said, if Fiorentino said, have the pride to finish strong in La Liga, they win their matches, even beating Barcelona. Even if they beat Barcelona in the Clásico, that might still not be enough to jump over Barcelona. Like, Barcelona needs to just have a meltdown. And in these next 2 months, well, in this next month, Barcelona needs to go on a meltdown for Real Madrid to even be really in the conversation for La Liga. And that's a lot to depend on. But that's where we are, man. If Real Madrid first need to win their matches, finish strong, win their matches, win El Clásico, and just hope that it is enough to jump over Barcelona. That's really it. I don't really think so. I don't know if this team is really mentally strong enough to do so. It worries me how this team's mentality has been. To the point now we're having conversations of who needs to go, Mbappe or Vinicius, because honestly, it hasn't been working, right? The Vinny and Mbappe thing has just not been working. Both players, and I already talked with Moussa about it, right? Like, Thierry Henry even called it out, right? You have Mbappe that just doesn't want to be a 9. He doesn't want to be center. He doesn't want to be central. He wants to be out on the wing just like where Vinny is. The thing is that there's a lack of communication just in that alone. Like, Vinny needs to be the bigger person, man. Like, if he was able to make things work with Karim Benzema, why can't you make it work with Mbappe? What was so different? I mean, there's a lot of reasons why it's different, because Benzema is not a selfish player. But, like, one of you guys needs to be the unselfish one. One of you guys need to, I don't know, but if the team plays like a team, we'll see. But right now, the Barca victory lap, ... That's really what it is right now. Barcelona, if they do their job, they win their matches. Maybe they don't even have to win El Clásico, to be honest with you. They don't have to win El Clásico. If they just win their matches out, they're probably going to live La Liga. They're going to win their second straight La Liga title. Yeah, there's that. And then on top of that, we have a interesting race. It's not a battle for second. It's actually a battle for third place, and that's between Villarreal and Atletico Madrid. Both teams are very much in the Champions League. As a matter of fact, top four are safe. They're all in the Champions League. Villarreal, I mean, a great season. One of the better defensive teams. Funny enough, though, I think Real Madrid has become the best defensive team. Yeah, who would have saw that coming? They have only allowed 29 goals versus Villarreal, who's already allowed 36. That is crazy. You're the best defensive team in La Liga, and you're 9 points behind Barcelona. I mean, Barcelona's only allowed 30 goals, so but yeah, still. But yeah, so Villarreal and Atletico Madrid at this point, they're battling for bragging rights. Atletico Madrid has always been known as the third team, always that third team in La Liga that, once in a blue moon they'll win, they'll win La Liga. Now you have Villarreal, who came in and just kind of shake things up here. Like I said, both of them are going to the Champions League. The question now is just, play for pride and finish the year strong, get that third place spot. Right now Villarreal has a 4-point lead over Atletico. Atletico obviously having a bad taste in their mouth, losing to Real Sociedad in the Copa del Rey final. They're still in the Champions League semifinal, so that'll probably have some attention there for them. But it's going to be an interesting finish for these teams. Just looking at the matches, Villarreal has Real Sociedad, Celta Vigo, Levante, Mallorca, Sevilla, Rayo Vallecano, and they're going to end the season against Atletico Madrid. So that final match day could decide who gets third place, and I really hope that it does go to that. As far as Atletico Madrid, I mean, you have Elche, Athletic Club Bilbao. Once again, you're still in the Champions League, so you have Arsenal on the 29th and on May 5th. You have Valencia, you have Celta Vigo, you have Osasuna, Girona, and on top of that, ending it with Villarreal. So very interesting placement there, and we'll see what happens there. In the European spots, man, obviously Europa League and Europa Conference League. Now, I will mention the race right now is between Real Betis, Celta Vigo, Real Sociedad, and Getafe. Though Real Sociedad now has a spot in the Europa League for winning Copa del Rey, so maybe that's not really going to be... I mean, if they finish in 5th, I do believe that expands it, so now that 6th place team now becomes an Europa League, and then 7th place becomes Europa Conference League. So that is something to really be following. Just right there. I don't know why I said it like that. That sounded really fucking weird, but here we are. Sorry for Cousin Kelsey, by the way. But yeah, 5th place is Europa League as of right now, and 6th place is Conference League. Real Betis, Celta Vigo, Real Sociedad, and Getafe are essentially 5th from Real Betis' spot in 5th to Getafe in 8th. It is 5 points. 5-point difference. So a lot to be said there. Real Betis, their final matches are Girona, Real Madrid, Real Oviedo, Real Sociedad. So that's going to be an important one. Elche, Barcelona, and Levante. So some big matches for Real Betis, Celta Vigo. I also believe they're going to be facing Real Madrid and Barcelona as well. No, actually, my bad. Atletico Madrid and Barcelona. You got Barcelona, you got Villarreal, another big one. Elche, Atletico Madrid, Levante, Atletico Bilbao, and you end the season with Celta Vigo. Sevilla. Real Sociedad. You go against Getafe. Already going to be an opportunity to get some separation. Rayo Vallecano, Sevilla, Real Betis. Another opportunity. Girona, Valencia, and then Espanyol to finish up the year. But once again, like I said, they do have an Europa League spot already for winning the Copa del Rey. And then Getafe, basically, like I said, they're going to take on Real Sociedad, so that's an opportunity. They have Barcelona, they have Rayo Vallecano, they have Real Valladolid, they have Mallorca, Elche, and Osasuna. So, some big matches there in La Liga. So So I'm obviously going to be more invested in La Liga just because that's the league I prefer watching, but I still do watch the Premier League, and that's what we're going to finish this off with. We have Premier League. Yeah, so Arsenal and Manchester City have played already, and Manchester City got the win. Got a big win. They are now 3 points behind Arsenal. And still have a game in hand. So that's going to be a big advantage. This is going to be the race for the title. Arsenal has this identity for bottling the league. Is this going to happen again? And if so, it's going to lead to a lot of conversations about Mikel Arteta. Now you're still in play, right? You're still in play for the Premier League. You just have to win your matches, man. All you can do at this point is control what you can control, which is the teams you face off against. You're in the semifinal for the Champions League. You got Atletico Madrid. Honestly, there's worse teams to face. Like you could have had Bayern Munich, you could have had PSG, but you didn't. You have Atletico Madrid. Not an easy matchup, but still an opportunity to at least jump over them. And I think that's going to be very important. Look, Arsenal plays really good defensively. I don't want to take anything away from them. They score goals mostly off of set pieces, but they need to finish out strong. And I mean, when you look at their final stretch of games, you have Newcastle United, sandwich that in between Atletico Madrid. You have Atletico Madrid and then obviously Fulham, and then another Atletico Madrid match because of obviously the Champions League semifinal. You have West Ham, a London derby right there. Form goes on the wayside. Burnley, and then you finish it with another London competition, and that is Crystal Palace. So definitely Newcastle, tough. Fulham, London, so tough. West Ham, tough. Burnley, at this point, it's going to be tough. And then Crystal Palace, tough. Especially the way Crystal Palace has been playing. So it's imperative that Arsenal has a strong finish. They have to have results to finish the year strong and to lift that Premier League title at the end of the road. Manchester City, on the other hand, once again, they do have a game in hand. So take that into consideration. But they have Burnley. They have the FA Cup with Southampton, which I believe it's not the final. I don't believe it's the final. No, it's not. But they have a semifinal against Southampton. So they're still in play for the FA Cup. So that's probably going to be another thing to take in consideration as they're rotating their squad. They have Everton. They have Brentford, Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, and Aston Villa. So, definitely the last three matches are going to be definitely. Actually, you can probably say the last four are definitely going to be some tough ones, some tough outs, but yeah. I mean, anything can happen, man. Anything can happen, but at the end of the day, if you're Arsenal, you need to win out your matches. Win out your matches. You're right now, you're above them when it comes to goal differential. So at least there's that, but at the same time, you got to win your matches. Control what you can control if you're Arsenal. If not, Manchester City is winning another Premier League title. Point blank. But it's going to be a great thing to follow. I think this is for the Premier League. I think it's a great thing to follow that it's still in play. The Premier League title is still in play. No one's won the Premier League yet. So it's going to be a lot of drama, at least in that aspect of it all. The Champions League race, man. All right. I thought that they would not give it to the Premier League, but it looks like Premier League has 5 Champions League spots. So that kind of changes what I was going to do with this. But all right. Because it's still very much in play from 3rd all the way to 8th. So you have Manchester United on that 3rd place spot with 58 points. Aston Villa also with 58 points. Then you have Liverpool and 55 in that last Champions League spot. And then with 48 points with each of them is Chelsea, Brentford, and Bournemouth. Still very much in play, man. I mean, 10-point difference between 8th and 3rd. But it is still something to follow, man. Manchester United have an interesting group of games. They have Brentford, one of the teams I just mentioned. They're competing for the Champions League spot. Liverpool, another team I mentioned. You got Sunderland. You got Nottingham Forest. And then you finish the season with Brighton, which has been showing to be a tough out for many of these teams. And then Aston Villa. You got Fulham. You actually got the Europa League also. You're in the Europa League semifinal against Nottingham Forest. So that's going to get some attention. You got Tottenham. You got Burnley, Liverpool, and then you finish the season with Manchester City. So, I mean, if you're an Arsenal supporter, you're really hoping that they can do you well. Liverpool, Crystal Palace, you got Manchester United, you got Chelsea, Aston Villa, and Brentford. So, very, very tough stretch, a very competitive stretch of games, especially teams that are still in play for something. Chelsea, you have Brighton, you're in the FA Cup, so you're taking on Leeds, so you're still very much in the FA Cup. You got Nottingham Forest, you got Liverpool, Tottenham, and Sunderland to end your season, so that's going to be still quite the gauntlet for them. Brentford, Manchester United, you got West Ham, you got Man City, Crystal Palace, and then you end the season with Liverpool. Bournemouth, you got Leeds United, you got Crystal Palace, Fulham, Man City, and Nottingham Forest. So, definitely going to be an interesting finish for those teams to get into those final 3 Champions League spots. To see who goes to the Champions League, who goes to Europa League, and who goes to Europa Conference League. So really interesting to see how that's going to follow. So definitely things to follow, especially in the Premier League, to see who gets those European spots and who gets left out. And the final one is Tottenham. Tottenham having just an abysmal season. Obviously, a lot of sackings. You have Roberto De Zerbi now managing your team. And, you have West Ham United. West Ham United is above you only by 1 point. So they're not necessarily out of it. They still have a chance, but they have to perform. And they have it's been rough, man. Yesterday you had a 2-2 draw against Brighton, which you just gave up the tying goal. It's not an easy thing to happen. But I will say, not a bad stretch of games, because you do have Wolves. You have Aston Villa. Aston Villa is going to be challenged. You got Leeds. Then you have Chelsea and Everton. You need to win these games. You need to do all. And honestly, they haven't won a game since the Champions League game, which they lost. Technically they lost on the aggregate. But as far as Premier League, they haven't won a Premier League game. Jesus Christ, I gotta keep scrolling. Since last year, December, which was a 1-0 victory against Crystal Palace. Since then, you have a bunch of draws and a bunch of losses. They need to win now. And hope West Ham has a rough stretch of games as well. If not, Tottenham is getting relegated to the Championship. And I ain't gonna lie to you. You guys aren't gonna hear the end of it. You guys are not gonna hear the end of it from me. I am going to just be a dick. Because you guys know I really hate Tottenham. And if they get relegated, man, that's just icing on the cake for me, man. So yeah. So that was the Premier League. Honestly, it's the Power 5 leagues, right? These are storylines that you could be following as the season concludes. We're down to the home stretch of matches, so it is going to be a crazy finish to all these leagues, man. I can't wait. I'm still believing Real Madrid can do it. I'm believing that they can turn things around, but they got to win out, and they got to hope Barcelona just starts having some stinkers. So it's a lot to depend on, man. So that's the reason why I'm hopeful, but at the same time, I'm just I don't know, man. But we'll see what happens, man. We're going to take a break and then go right into Players of the Week.
Fight and win!
All right, guys. Players of the Week is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is an amazing ticketing site, app, however you use it, that gives you tickets to the best events, all live, from sporting events to concerts. SeatGeek has you covered. Me and Edward use SeatGeek for a lot of the live events that we attend to. We can't get enough of it, man. So it's very simple, man. Has a great grading system using colors and numbers. If the number is really low from a 10-point scale, like a 1, and it's very red, that means whoever's trying to sell you those tickets are an idiot. Keep scrolling. You're going to find a better deal. Now, if the score is really high, up in the 10, all the way up to 10 or near 10, and it's really green, that means buy those tickets. You're getting a great deal for this event. Go get them. Enjoy. We love the simplicity of SeatGeek, man. Like I said, we use it all the time. And if you're not sold just yet, use that code BellyUpSports for your first time, and you'll save $20 off that purchase. So, SeatGeek, Life's an Event. We have the tickets, man. Take full advantage, man. I guarantee you, man. It's worth it. My player of the week is Matteo Cancellieri, who had a goal and assist in Lazio's 2-0 victory against Napoli. Really important matchup, especially when you're talking about that second place race, right, for the Serie A. And Edwards' player of the week is Luis Diaz, who got 2 assists in Bayern Munich's 4-2 victory against Stuttgart, which in fact clinched them the Bundesliga title. So Luis Diaz has been a very impactful player for Bayern Munich. Deserves a lot of flowers, from his move from Liverpool. So, congratulations to Matteo Cancellieri and Luis Diaz for being our players of the week. Once again, guys, use that code BellyUpSports at checkout. Save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek, Life's an Event. We have the tickets. All right, guys, games to watch this weekend. We got a little Texas rivalry. I'm not going to call it a Texas Derby. I know people want to call it Texas Derby, but Texas Derby is Houston and FC Dallas, not Austin FC. I don't know what to call it, but we're going to call it, Copa Tejas. Copa Tejas. If you guys don't know, the Copa Tejas is this trophy that they give to the highest point margin team in the MLS. So I believe last season the Houston Dynamo got the Copa Tejas. Sure. But yeah, so Austin FC, Houston Dynamo facing off this weekend. Obviously, I'm very vetted because it's Austin FC and it's a rivalry. It's a Texas rivalry match. So we'll be watching it. We got Inter Miami taking on New England Revolution as well in MLS, man. Obviously Javier Mascherano is no longer the coach of Inter Miami. I've been saying Inter Milan a lot, so this is now becoming this is just me being an idiot. But Inter Miami, obviously, we'll see what's happening with them. Can New England Revolution take advantage, or we're going to have new manager bounce? We'll see, man. Actually, I guess technically they already had it, so we'll see what happens, man. We got Manchester City versus Southampton in the FA Cup, as well as Chelsea versus Leeds United this weekend. So, big semifinal matches to go see who's going to be in that final. I really hope it is Manchester City because I need them a little bit focused on something else besides the league. So, we'll see what happens there, man. In Liga MX, we got Pachuca taking on Pumas and Toluca taking on León. They're also kind of going into the home stretch of matches as well in Liga MX. So, probably need to look into bringing in some Liga MX guys to talk Liga MX. In Liga, we got Toulouse taking on AS Monaco and Paris FC taking on Leo in Liga. In the Bundesliga, we got FC Augsburg taking on Eintracht Frankfurt and Borussia Dortmund taking on SC Freiburg. Over there in the Bundesliga. In Serie A, we got Bologna taking on Roma and AC Milan taking on Juventus. Big matchup there. A lot of implications over there in the Serie A. In La Liga, we got Real Betis taking on Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid going against Athletic Club Bilbao. Hopefully they can get a bounce back after losing the Copa del Rey final. In the Premier League, we got Arsenal taking on Newcastle United. Like I said, they got to start winning. They got to win matches. They got to win it from here on out, and don't give Man City a single chance to jump over them. And we got Liverpool taking on Crystal Palace. So some good matches there. Obviously, not all the matches are happening this weekend, but if you guys need a good beginner's guide, I think we gave you guys some good matches to keep an eye on, man. So with all that being said, we're going to take one more break and then wrap this show up with Give and Go.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
All right, guys. Give and Go. As you guys know, this is an awesome card game that has like a lot of topics to look at, ranging from a lot of soccer different categories. Now, they have some interesting cards as well, like some little challenge cards, like play this, guess game that involves another person. Obviously, you can't play that one. And also, there's some other like little things like, do your goal celebration or something like that. So obviously, can't do that here. But so yeah, so. Okay. So the first card is perfect. Best female soccer player of all time. Best female soccer player of all time. And that's an interesting question, just because of like who do you look at as far as an all-time great? And obviously this is, once again we're talking about women's soccer. Look, the women's game, as far as has always been about U.S. women's team, right? They've been the most dominant force, most successful, in the World Cups. A lot of wins for USA women, and I've talked about it. Why? I will say though, the women's game internationally has gotten very much better, especially in Europe, along the likes of Spain and England and France as well. But more specifically, Spain and England have definitely leveled up themselves, and I think it's just because they're putting more of an emphasis in the women's game over there. To the things that have always worked for the women's national team are probably not going to start working so much anymore. But I think once again, the women's team has the talent pool. They have the players. Have been still one of the best teams in the world. So I'm not trying to take that away from them, but I will say, the rest of the world is starting to catch up. It's gonna be interesting to see how that goes. But in my opinion, man, the greatest player of all time, because if you want to talk about Americans, obviously, Carly Lloyd, Mia Hamm are probably like the first names you think of. Abby Wambach. Obviously, a ton of players you could talk about for the women's game, but when you really think about it, you have to, in all honesty, and maybe, I've always talked about her highly, and that's obviously, I'm trying to remember her name. That's the only thing that's kicking my ass right now. Is Christine Sinclair. I don't know. Jesus Christ. Why was that so hard for me to say? But, Christine Sinclair, as far as what she has been able to do, one, obviously, consistency, man, has played for such a long time, man, going all the way back to the 2000s, right? Played college ball and then obviously professionally, but playing 2000, honestly, because that's when she started playing for Canada. But 331 appearances for Canada and 190 goals, which I believe is the record. Is the record for most goals internationally. Yeah. She's just like, once again, she's gonna go down in the history books. Can someone top her? Probably. We're gonna see it at some point, right? But yeah, she has. She's one of the 3 players to score in 5 World Cup editions alongside Marta and Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah, she's a legend of the game. A lot of people are going to remember her for that, of her contribution to the game. And also even with the NWSL, man, she's going to be forever remembered, for all the hard work that she has done, and really push forward the women's game. And I really do. I do essentially think of, like, to me, she's one of the best players. She is the best player. Not only leading international goal scorer as far as women's game, but she's even surpassed the men. Because I believe 190 goals. And I think Cristiano Ronaldo, technically, let me see. Goals for international goals. So, yeah, 190 goals. And then, let me see, most international goals. Let me see. Yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo holds the record for most international goals in men's game. In the men's game with 143 goals. But Christine Sinclair has the all-time goal scoring record with 190. And I mean, I think obviously there's levels to it because I mean Christine Sinclair's been playing since she was 16, but at the same time, like I mean that's consistency. Consistency has always been her thing, and that's why I gave her like the highest of praise. I mean she has scored more goals than the men's side, and that needs to be acknowledged more. Like they have to reword it. Like most international men, men's international goals. Is Cristiano Ronaldo holds the record for most men's international goals, not all-time goals, because Christine Sinclair holds that record. So, yeah, I would consider her the best women's player. And I mean, obviously, you hold the count to Carly Lloyd, hold the count to, Alex Morgan, and Marta, of many greats, right? But like when you talk about, like when you, and especially when you look. When kids are going to look at the history books, when they're going to look at those records, Christine Sinclair's name is going to be there. It's going to be really impressive to see someone that can score 191 goals, and that's going to be an amazing feat for whoever it is. But we're going to always look at all-time goal scorers for international games, and it's going to be Christine Sinclair. And I think that's awesome. I think that really is awesome. People can try to push the goalposts a little bit, like, oh, but it's different. It's a women's game versus the men's game and all that, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. She showed up every single day, scored for her national team. She scored for Canada 190 times. That takes account. I don't care. Look, Cristiano Ronaldo is an all-time great. He's always going to be remembered for that. I've said it plenty of times. Once he left Real Madrid, he can fuck off. Sorry for cussing Kelsey. But yes, he's a great goal scorer. But at the end of the day, you can't talk about great goal scorers without talking about Christine Sinclair. That's all I gotta say, man. But all right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you guys give some love and support to Belly Up Sports. Check out the website bellyupsports.com. Follow them on X and Instagram at Belly Up Sports to see all that's going on. Like I said, man, we're getting closer to the World Cup. Me and Kelsey have done some World Cup nation profiles, so be on the lookout for those when we start dropping them. I can't wait for you guys to hear it and hear how much of an idiot I am or what I'll be intrigued what you guys have to say. But yeah, be on the lookout, man. Social media at Belly of Sports, so you can see when all that stuff drops. Also, Goals TV, man. Follow them on X, Goals_TV, and on Instagram at Goals.tv. Make sure you guys follow them on YouTube as well, Goals TV. You'll see me there from time to time, especially on Wake Up MLS. So be on the lookout for that. Maybe some things coming in the works, so we'll see what happens there as well. And of course, Roosevelt Spencer, man. If you guys hear the beats and intros for our for our audio version of this podcast, it is made by Roosevelt Spencer. As a matter of fact, some of our ads are made. Some of the beats that are on our ads have been made by Roosevelt Spencer himself. So, if you guys need some beat work done, man, follow him on Instagram at ThatGuyDope. Once again, at ThatGuyDope, and he will take great care of you like he always does with us, man. Just message him, say, hey, I need some beats. And the guys from Insert Name FC have sent us over here, so please help us. And we love him. We love Spencer, man. He is the namesake of the Roosevelt Spencer Player of the Year Award, and it's because we hold him to a high regard, man. So make sure you guys check him out. Make sure you help him out, man. He's growing something over there, and obviously, growing a family as well. So go out there and give him some love, man. But all right, man. It's episode 254. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you guys check out Moussa as well. Follow him on YouTube as well. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. Catch us next week. Interview. There's an interview next week, so be ready for that. And we might talk about some Liga MX. Might have to. I think so. We'll see. But for sure, there's going to be an interview, man. Really exciting interview, so be ready for that. So catch us next week. Take care, guys.